Romantic Tales. Chapter 222. Qin Mengyan, then the matter between us? Yang Ming asked in a hurry. I don't know, your point of view. I can't accept it for a while. Can you let me calm down? My mind is in a mess now. I can't think of anything. Qin Mengyan shook her head helplessly. Hearing the words for a while, Yang Ming was slightly happy. Qin Mengyan said so. It means that she can't accept it for the time being. Does that mean she can accept it in the future? Then do you mean we won't break up? Yang Ming asked quickly. It's temporary. Let's calm down for a while. Qin Mengyan said, give me some time. Let me think about it. At this point it was the best result. Yang Ming didn't want to force it. But he was still a little nervous about Qin Mengyan's final decision. After all, Qin Mengyan's personality was different from Zhao Ying and Lan Ling. Qin Mengyan was very strict with her lover. Well, can we still contact each other normally? Yang Ming didn't give up and asked. If there's nothing important, don't contact me first. I will turn on my phone. Qin Mengyan shook her head. Give me some time. After I think about it, I will tell you no matter what the result is. That's fine. You take care of your body. You have lost weight these 2 days. Yang Ming stood up. Then I will go first. Qin Mengyan nodded. She looked at Yang Ming reaching out to open the door. Seeing his red and swollen hand, she asked apologetically, your hand, is it okay? It's nothing. Yang Ming was very happy. It turned out that she still cared about him. Coming out of Qin Mengyan's bedroom, Yang Ming felt an indescribable relief. Yes, the big stone that was pressing on my heart for a long time was finally removed. He had confessed to Qin Mengyan. No matter what the result was, Yang Ming had a clear conscience. He arrived at the washroom on the second floor with ease. Zhao Sisi was no longer there. After confirming that there was no one around, Yang Ming came to the window. His hand was broken, so it was not very convenient for him to climb down, but this was not a problem for Yang Ming. If it wasn't for the recent intensive training, Yang Ming was likely to be helpless. However, it was different now. After going through Fong Tian's simulation training of various unfavorable factors, Yang Ming had a stronger response and adaptability. In the simulation training, there was training on how to carry out rock climbing after an arm injury. Moreover, Yang Ming's right hand was a little inflexible now. It was not to the point where he could not use it, so he easily jumped to the bottom of the dormitory building. After settling everything, Yang Ming looked at the time. It was probably noon. He called Zhang Bin. Hello Zhang Bin. I am Yang Ming. Is class over? Almost. What's wrong? Zhang Bin asked. Let's have lunch together. Yang Ming said. Okay, you wait for me at the bottom of my building. Class is ending soon. Zhang Bin said. Yang Ming came to Zhang Bin's building of the Department of Economics and Management. Soon the students of each class were dismissed. Zhang Bin was one of the first batch of people to run out. When he saw Yang Ming's swollen hand, he was surprised and asked, Boss, you went to practice the iron palm? Practice my ass. If I practiced the iron palm, would my hand still be like this? Yang Ming laughed and scolded. It was pinched by Qin Mengyan. Pinched. Zhang Bin was stunned. He immediately showed an ambiguous smile. This guy obviously misunderstood. Damn, what are you thinking? It was pinched by the door. Yang Ming slapped Zhang Bin's head. Fuck. Sister-in-law is too fierce, right? Pinching you with the door? Are you too the legendary SM? Zhang Bin said exaggeratedly. Come on, I am not as fierce as you. Zhao Sisi didn't go to class today. Do you know what happened to her? Yang Ming naturally could not let Zhang Bin continue to criticize him. What happened? Zhang Bin immediately asked with concern. She said she was not feeling well, so she went to sleep in the dormitory. Is there something else? I climbed up from the window of the female dormitory's second-floor washroom. Guess what I saw? Yang Ming deliberately made Zhang Bin lose his appetite. What did you see? Zhang Bin asked nervously. Obviously, he was very concerned about Zhao Sisi's situation. I saw Zhao Sisi limping in with a basin and shampoo in her hand. Yang Ming laughed evilly. Zhang Bin was embarrassed and laughed dryly. Hee. Don't laugh. Buy some anti-inflammatory medicine later. Yang Ming reminded him. Zhang Bin nodded and said, Oh yeah, how are you and sister-in-law? How else can I be? It is a cold war. It is good that we did not break up. Yang Ming shook his head. Why, wasn't it good before? Did sister-in-law know about Lan Ling? Zhang Bin suddenly asked. I know. Yang Ming nodded. I told her what happened. If she asks you for confirmation, you just have to tell the truth. But she probably won't ask you. AI. Zhang Bin sighed. Seems that having more girlfriends is not a good thing. I was envious of you. Now I finally know the harm. Don't let Zhao Cece know about your one-night stand. Yang Ming reminded him. I will be very careful, but I am very little now. You saw it too. I lived in the dormitory all day after I went to university. Zhang Bin said. What do you want to eat? Yang Ming looked at the crowded cafeteria and was a little scared. Let's eat outside. I will drink with you. Zhang Bin smiled. Don't. You make me feel like a lovelorn. Yang Ming waved his hand. The two people came to a barbecue near the school. They asked for a few bottles of beer and barbecued some mutton skewers. Zhang Bin asked for 20 beef kidneys, saying that he wanted to nourish his body. Yang Ming laughed. The two of them chatted about everything under the sun, reminiscing about their high school days. Yang Ming's voice became very unfriendly. Chapter 223. You skipped class in the morning. The tutor wants to talk to you. You should go now. It's in the tutor's office on the second floor of the computer control building. Sun Jiwei said with some schadenfreude. I know. Yang Ming said faintly, but he said in his heart, fuck your mother. It must be you who told on me. Although he was angry, he still had to go to the tutor's summons. Yang Ming went to the bathroom to wash his face, sober up, and then brushed his teeth again. In the end, he didn't forget to eat a piece of gum, but the smell of alcohol was still very strong. Yang Ming couldn't help it. If there was a smell, then there was a smell. He wiped his face and rushed to the tutor's office. He and Xie Yongqiang didn't have much interaction and they didn't talk much. Yang Ming found the tutor's office in the computer control building according to Sun Jiwei's instructions. He knocked on the door, then pushed the door and went in. Yang Ming, you come here. Xie Yongqiang looked up and saw Yang Ming, so he waved him over. Teacher Xie. Yang Ming had a smell of alcohol, so he didn't dare to be too close to him. He was afraid that he would be smelled. You drank. As a man, Xie Yongqiang was still very sensitive to the smell of alcohol. He knew that Yang Ming had drunk alcohol. I drank a little at noon. Yang Ming smiled embarrassedly. Well, you move a stool and sit next to me. Xie Yongqiang pointed to a few empty chairs opposite. Yang Ming was dizzy, so he didn't hesitate. He moved a chair and sat next to Xie Yongqiang. Yang Ming, I heard that you and Sun Jiwei don't get along well? Xie Yongqiang said slowly. Yang Ming's heart skipped a beat after hearing it. Is this Xie Yongqiang with Sun Jiwei? Yang Ming looked at Xie Yongqiang strangely. Who said that? We haven't even talked to each other much. You don't have to lie to me. Do you think that I don't have an informant in the class? Xie Yongqiang smiled. I know everything about your usual things. Yang Ming nodded. That's right. Which teacher didn't have a few spies in the class? The class cadre was on the surface, but there were definitely a few spies in the dark. Their purpose was to prevent the class cadre from practicing favoritism. Since Teacher Xie is clear about it, then I won't argue. I do have some conflicts with him, but he has always been looking for trouble with me. Yang Ming replied. I know. But you didn't come to class today. Can't be because of him, right? Xie Yongqiang laughed. And I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't go. Yang Ming lied and explained. You can still drink when you're not feeling well? Xie Yongqiang looked at Yang Ming with a half smile. What happened? Is it that serious? Xie Yongqiang no longer doubted Yang Ming. What a joke. Who would deliberately hurt their hand like this? Wouldn't it be so painful? It's okay. I accidentally got caught by the door. The swelling has gone down. Yang Ming was a little embarrassed. He couldn't say that it was because he quarreled with his girlfriend. Oh, be careful next time. If you have something, call me in advance to ask for leave. Don't you have my phone number? Xie Yongqiang said, forget about it this time. Next time you have to write a reflection. This time your hand is like this. I guess you can't write it. Thank you, Teacher Xie. Yang Ming said quickly. Thank you. Xie Yongqiang shook his head. Why does it sound like a jingle? Is your hand okay? Do you want to see it? No need. It's nothing. Yang Ming was telling the truth. This injury was nothing. It was far worse than the previous injury. It's okay. Right, you and Sun Jiwei are classmates. Don't be too hard on him in the future. I will do some work for him. Xie Yongqiang said. Teacher Xie, don't worry. I never took the initiative to target him. Yang Ming said. That's good. Xie Yongqiang nodded and suddenly changed the topic. Yang Ming, do you want to be the class monitor? Class monitor? What class monitor? Yang Ming was inexplicable by the sudden question. I want to replace Sun Jiwei next semester. His organizational ability is too bad and he is too narrow-minded. Xie Yongqiang said, don't you want to try? Me. Yang Ming suddenly smiled. Teacher Xie, don't joke around. How can I be the class monitor? What can't you be? Xie Yongqiang said, Teacher Xiaoqing from the computer science department told me to take care of you. Sister Xiaoqing? Yang Ming was stunned and smiled bitterly. Teacher Xie, if you want to take care of me, just turn a blind eye to my usual attendance. I don't want to be a class monitor. Do you think I'm cut for it? Xie Yongqiang realized that he had misunderstood. He thought that Yang Ming and Sun Jiwei didn't get along because Yang Ming also wanted to be the class monitor. Later, Xiaoqing also told him to take care of Yang Ming, so Xie Yongqiang decided to give Xiaoqing face and let Yang Ming be the class monitor. He didn't expect that he had misunderstood. You mean you want to skip classes often? Xie Yongqiang asked. Yeah, Teacher Xie. In fact, I don't want to hide it from you. I am used to being free since high school. I often skip classes. I like to self-study. I don't like to learn in class. Yang Ming said. Self-study? Your self-study ability is quite strong. You can be admitted to Songjiang Industry University by self-study? Xie Yongqiang shook his head. Then what do you want me to do? I don't care about your usual behavior of skipping classes. If the teacher asks, do I cover for you? It should be like this. Yang Ming smiled. This is a bit difficult. Aren't you asking me to lie for you? Xie Yongqiang was helpless. If he knew, he wouldn't have mentioned the relationship with Xiaoqing. Now that they were familiar with each other, he really couldn't refuse. Teacher Xie, how about this? I promise that I won't fail the final exam and complete all the tasks. Yang Ming saw that Xie Yongqiang hesitated and quickly added chips for himself. But the premise is that Teacher Xie has to help me. If these teachers deduct my usual grades, then I have to fail the exam. Well, it's almost November now. There is still a month before the final exam. Let's look at the exam results this time. If you really pass the exam as you said, then I will allow you to self-study in the future. But if you don't pass a subject, then you have to come back to class honestly. How about it? Xie Yongqiang thought about it and said, no problem. Teacher Xie, you are so nice. As Yang Ming said this, he wanted to hug him. Stop, I don't have any special hobbies. You stay away from me. Xie Yongqiang made a joke. I'm just excited. Yang Ming smiled and said, then I'll leave the matter of the teacher to you. This is no problem. I will help you find a way to deal with it. Xie Yongqiang nodded. Thank you, teacher. If there's nothing else, I will go first. Yang Ming asked. After leaving Xie Yongqiang's office, Yang Ming was very happy. Originally, he was still worried about going to class every day. With this, he had enough time to do his own things. Now he did have a little money, but he couldn't just sit there and do nothing. Therefore, Yang Ming decided to start a business. To start a business, he needed enough time. Asking for leave was necessary. Yang Ming had to thank Sun Jiwei. If he didn't give him the opportunity to contact Xie Yongqiang, he couldn't get such a good condition. As for the final exam, it was too easy for Yang Ming. With the use of X-ray vision and telescopic vision, the answer naturally came out. Yang Ming returned to the dormitory humming a little tune. His hand was like this. It was obviously impossible to practice in the little forest. Yang Ming suddenly remembered that Fong Tian had given him some Chinese medicine ointment to remove blood stasis. It was said that the effect was very good. It was personally made by Fong Tian. It was many times better than those sold in the pharmacy. So he quickly opened the cabinet and found an ointment to stick on his hand. Suddenly, a cool feeling filled his entire right hand. It was indescribably comfortable. It seemed that Fong Tian wasn't bragging. This thing was really effective. Yang Ming, are you going to drink tonight? Tian Donghua heard that Yang Ming was back. He walked out of his room with sleepy eyes. Yang Ming thought about it. Qin Mengyan was now in a cold war with him. Anyway, he had nothing to do, so he agreed. Well, when Zhang Bin wakes up, I will ask him if he wants to go. This pig, he slept like he was dead. I just called him for a long time, but he didn't wake up. I have no choice. I'm going to sleep too. Tian Donghua shook his head and walked to the bathroom. He turned on the tap and rinsed his scalp. Then he washed his face and said, I overslept. Chapter 224. Yang Ming and Tian Donghua chatted for a while. Now that Tian Donghua and Yang Ming were familiar with each other, they spoke more casually. Old Tian, why did you transfer to Songjiang? Yang Ming asked. Your family seems to be quite powerful in Donghai City, right? Is it because you broke someone's leg? Hehe, but the kid who was beaten by me was quite badass. He was an official. He wanted to mess with me, so the school couldn't do anything about it. I didn't want to make things difficult for the school, so I took the initiative to transfer. Tian Donghua smiled. Let's not talk about it. Yang Ming nodded. Right, are you going to continue like this? Not going to class? I can't keep up if I go. What we studied in the university is different. Besides, I'm a little discouraged now. I don't want to study anymore. Let's talk about it after graduation. Tian Donghua said. When it was almost 4 o'clock, Zhang Bin woke up. When he heard that they were going to drink again, he immediately became energetic. He washed up and went out with Yang Ming. Where are we going? Are we driving? Asked Zhang Bin. Driving? Of course we are taking a taxi. Who will drive when we are drunk? Tian Donghua stopped him. Let's go eat hot pot. Yang Ming suggested. They ate barbecue at noon. It was a bit dry, so they ate something with soup at night. Okay, I have no problem. Tian Donghua wasn't picky about food. He nodded and said. Zhang Bin and Yang Ming also had the same idea. Naturally they agreed. So the three people stopped a taxi together and went straight to Songjiang's famous Hongyuan hot pot. This was Songjiang's time-honored hot pot. It belonged to the old shantytown cuisine. Tian Donghua had heard of this hot pot when he was in Donghai. Now that he could taste it, he was naturally looking forward to it. The private rooms here were all reserved. The three people weren't talking about business. They were just good friends who came out to eat. There was no need to go to a private room. So they just found a seat in the hall and sat down. After the three people first filled their stomachs, they ordered a few dishes to go with the wine and began to drink. When they were almost done drinking, Yang Ming suggested that they go for a karaoke session. After Tian Donghua heard this, he immediately said excitedly, Old Tian was originally called the god of songs. I finally have a chance to show it. Yang Ming and Zhang Bin immediately stood up and hid far away. Because Tian Donghua was already drunk, this guy's voice was especially loud, causing everyone in the hall to look over. Yang Ming and Zhang Bin acted like they didn't know him and quickly moved aside. What's wrong with you two? In a moment I'll show the two of you what it means to be the god of songs of the new era. Tian Donghua stood up with a hiccup. Yang Ming and Zhang Bin were speechless. Yang Ming brought the two of them to the nightless club KTV. He just happened to see Bao Sanli on the way. After the appearance of Yang Ming last time, many of Bao Sanli's underlings knew Yang Ming. A security guard at the door saw Yang Ming and the others coming in and quickly greeted, Brother Yang. You are here. And find me a private room. A small bag will do. Yang Ming wasn't the kind of person who cared about ostentation. There were only 3 people on his side. A big bag would make it seem empty. Okay, no problem. The security guard brought Yang Ming and the others into the hall. At the front desk he said to the service lady, Brother Bao's friend wants a small bag. The service lady at the front desk immediately arranged a luxurious small bag and a plate of fruit. When Yang Ming was about to pay, the security guard quickly said, Brother Yang, do you still need to pay for coming to Brother Bao's place? If Brother Bao knew about this, he would scold me to death. Yang Ming nodded. He knew that these people who mingled in the underworld were particular people. If you were too polite to him, he would feel that you didn't treat him as a friend. So he didn't refuse and said, Okay, then I will personally thank Brother Bao later. Tian Donghua was already confused. He entered the private room and picked 3 ladies. He hugged one of them and started singing. Zhang Bin wasn't someone to be trifled with. He directly touched the lady. Yang Ming wasn't interested in finding ladies. Besides, he wasn't in a good mood today. Although Lan Ling explained the meaning of the voodoo, he couldn't be too indulgent. He couldn't just randomly pick up ladies. Yang Ming talked to the free lady and let her be in charge of choosing songs. Although the free lady was a little annoyed that Yang Ming didn't care about her, she had just heard from the security guard that these people were Brother Bao's VIP guests. She couldn't offend them. So she didn't dare to have any complaints. She pretended to be very happy and did the job of choosing songs. However, Tian Donghua became unusually generous after drinking too much. Although the room fee and the service fee were already paid, he still took out his wallet from his pocket and gave each of the 3 ladies a tip of 200 yuan. In this way no one complained. Yang Ming smiled and turned to leave the private room. He wasn't drunk. At this moment he was going to visit Bao Sanli. They didn't have much contact since the last time. During this time, Bao Sanli called Yang Ming. He wanted to say something but stopped. Yang Ming didn't take it seriously. Yang Ming found the security room that he went to last time and knocked on the door. A man's voice came from inside. "Who is it?" Then the door opened. It was one of the men who dealt with Gu Jianchao with Bao Sanli last time. After seeing Yang Ming, he immediately said, "Brother Yang, you are here. Brother Bao is inside." Yang Ming nodded and walked into the room. Bao Sanli was on the phone. When he heard someone push the door open, he immediately scolded, "Who is so unruly? Didn't I say? Don't come in when I'm on the phone?" "Brother Bao, it's me." Yang Ming was shocked by his loud voice. When he looked up and saw Yang Ming, Bao Sanli grinned, "Brother Yang, it's you." "I'm sorry." Bao Sanli quickly stood up. Then he said to the other side of the phone, "Okay, let's talk about this later. I have a guest here." Then he hung up the phone. Bao Sanli just hung up the phone and the phone rang again. Bao Sanli made an apologetic expression to Yang Ming and picked up the phone again. It turned out that the phone call was from his subordinates. They told him that Yang Ming was here. Bao Sanli was talking to others before so he couldn't get through. Bao Sanli said that he understood and hung up the phone. Then he turned to Yang Ming and said, "Brother Yang, why are you here?" "I came out to drink with my friends in the dormitory and then sang. Then I came here." Yang Ming said with a smile, "Will I give you any trouble?" "What are you talking about? Coming here to play with a brother is giving me face. What trouble?" Bao Sanli pretended to be angry. "Hee, then I won't be polite." "Right, Brother Bao, how are you recently?" asked Yang Ming. "So I don't mention it. I've fought with that dog Yu Xiangda twice. Originally I was the one who had the upper hand each time. But recently I heard some bad news. Yu Xiangda has invited reinforcements from other cities. They might join forces to deal with me. After all, the forces in Songjiang are now very chaotic. There are a lot of bad guys. Yu Xiangda and I are the bigger forces in the north and south of the city. As long as he can deal with me, it is possible for him to ascend to the throne of Songjiang's underground forces." Bao Sanli continued, "After all, Songjiang is also a kind of city. Although it is not as prosperous as the provincial capital, Donghai, in recent years, the economy has also improved by leaps and bounds. Entertainment venues are extremely popular. So many people are eyeing Songjiang. Since Husan was sentenced to death, the underworld forces in Songjiang city had not formed a large scale. After all, no one dared to go against the wind. But in recent years the country has also opened up a lot. The underworld can't be stopped. As long as you don't do too much, I believe that the city will not take the initiative to touch you." He also wanted to have a stable situation. He could still tolerate it as long as it didn't destroy the overall situation. Moreover, now it was different from the first few years. The original underworld bullied and dominated the market. They bullied men and women and committed all kinds of crimes. But now it was different. No one would do those thankless jobs that didn't give them money. How much money can they collect from the protection fees of some small stalls? It is easy to send a few underlings to watch the scene and make money. Nothing will happen. As for bullying men and women, that is even more impossible. Who still plays with rape now? Young ladies can be chosen from rows of rows. There are also good women who have one-night stands. The underworld now has their eyes on the entertainment industry and real estate business. Whoever becomes the boss of Songjiang may become the richest person in Songjiang city in the future. Yu Xiangda saw that my side was getting stronger and stronger, so he couldn't sit still. He wanted to use the power of the outside to get rid of me. If he didn't think about it, why would the underworld of Donghai help him? He really overestimated himself. Yang Ming nodded. Bao Sanli's analysis was very thorough. It seems that the underworld of other cities also coveted Songjiang city. Delay called me just now. We were talking about this matter. According to the information from the inside, Yu Xiangda has already reached an agreement with the other side to deal with me. Bao Sanli sighed and said, "After the matter is done, then we will split the benefits of Songjiang equally." Equally? Yang Ming was stunned. Is this Yu Xiangda stupid? Chapter 225. The Butterfly Family. It was one of the most mysterious and terrifying families in the world. It was located in an ancient town in Europe. For thousands of years, no one knew who the core members of this mysterious family were, and no one knew where the butterfly family lived. This family seemed to have disappeared from people's sight. However, only a few people at the top of the upper class knew that the butterfly family had not disappeared, but had continued to this day. This was because no one had heard of the butterfly family, but the world's #1 assassin organization, Butterfly, was well known. Behind this creepy name was the butterfly family. Of course, this secret was only known by the leaders of several large families who had received favors from the butterfly family many years ago. This was because this matter was passed down from generation to generation as a family rule. The leaders of these families were naturally very clear about the relationship between the butterfly organization and the butterfly family. Tombstone was the #1 assassin in the butterfly organization. Ever since he started his career, he had always maintained a record of 0 misses. No one knew his true identity and no one had seen his original appearance. This was because those who had seen him had now become tombstones. Tombstone's position in the world's assassin ranking was also among the top. 8 years ago, since the mysterious disappearance of the King of Assassins, Tombstone had become the #1 assassin in the assassin world. Of course, Tombstone was now in a semi-retired state. People in the assassin world thought that he was preparing to retire, but those who really understood knew that this was an internal arrangement of the butterfly family. This was because Tomorrow Never Will Come, who was currently ranked 2nd, was Tombstone's pride. Tombstone did not need to do anything himself now. He was now only serving the butterfly family. However, Tombstone, who had retired for a long time, now appeared in Songjiang. Moreover, his mission this time was not to kill but to find someone. If people in the assassin world knew about this, they would be very surprised. Who had so much power to drive Tombstone to do this kind of thing? Butler Mu, I found the Mrs. Trace. She is now studying at Songjiang Industry University. Tombstone said very respectfully to the person on the other end of the phone. Well, don't alert the enemy first. You are responsible for protecting her secretly. The person on the other end of the phone hesitated and said, Yes, Butler Mu. Tombstone will not disappoint and protect the Mrs. Safety. Unless Tombstone is dead, Tombstone said firmly. Report the situation over there to me at any time, including Mrs. Friends and the people she usually contacts. Butler Mu said. Understood, Tombstone said. Butler Mu hung up the phone and quickly reported the contents of the phone call to the master. Yang Ming chuckled as if he had heard a big joke. Doesn't Yu Xiangda know that he's inviting a wolf into the house? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But he wants to deal with me, so he can only do this. Bao Somli shook his head. Right now, Yu Xiangda is also sitting firmly in the north of the city. If he were to negotiate with you, the two of you would stay in the north and south of the city and not interfere with each other. Wouldn't this situation be what he wants? Yang Ming wondered if water had entered Yu Xiangda's head. Yu Xiangda and I have been holding grudges for a long time. When we met in the detention center, we were already at the point where we couldn't tolerate each other because of delay. Bao Somli smiled bitterly. Last time you severely injured him and made him stop for a while. But now he has strong support and is thinking about how to destroy me. What are you going to do? Yang Ming glanced at Bao Somli and asked. I'm not reconciled. Bao Somli suddenly sighed. Although he didn't say it clearly, these 4 words were full of everything. Yang Ming naturally understood the meaning of this. It seemed that Bao Somli was very clear that his days were numbered. Go far away or fight to the end? Yang Ming nodded and asked. Fight to the end. Bao Somli gritted his teeth. It's not easy for me, Bao Somli, to get to this position. If I just leave, I'm nothing. Isn't your boss very popular? Can't he help you settle it? Yang Ming's boss naturally referred to the Nightless Club's boss. He is indeed very popular in the legal world, but he can't intervene in the underworld. Bao Somli said, at this time he will never get himself involved. In this battle, no matter which side wins, it has little to do with him. In the end, it's just a change of a group of people. I advise you to take the money and go to another city to start again. You have already estimated the outcome. If you make unnecessary sacrifices, what's the difference between you and a fool? Since ancient times there is a saying, where there is life, there is hope. One day you will make a comeback. Yang Ming said thoughtfully. Bao Sanli shook his head and didn't speak for a long time. After a while he looked up and said, "Brother Yang, can you come and help me?" "Me? Help you?" Yang Ming was stunned. He didn't expect Bao Sanli to make this request. "If you can come and help me, I may have a lot of chances to win," Bao Sanli said. He was afraid that Yang Ming would misunderstand, so he explained, "You can rest assured. You are not coming to be my underling. We are in a cooperative relationship. After the matter is done, you can choose from the north and south of the city." "Brother Bao, you misunderstood. I am a student. How can I help you? Besides, I am not in the underworld." "What is the use of a territory?" Yang Ming asked curiously. "No, you can help me," Bao Sanli said. "Now that Songjiang's economic situation is there, the leaders in the city will not allow large-scale armed fights and gunfights under their own rule. Therefore, the fight for territory can only be a small-scale battle or a few matches. The loser will withdraw from Songjiang. The possibility of a fight to the death is relatively small. After all, when the two sides fight, how many venues will be affected? The police can't not interfere." "You mean you want me to fight with them?" Yang Ming understood Bao Sanli's meaning. "Almost." Bao Sanli nodded. "Oh, Brother Bao, I don't have the idea of getting involved in the underworld. Let me think about this matter." Yang Ming couldn't refuse directly, so he made up a reason to dodge it. "Well, everyone has their own ambitions. I won't force you." Bao Sanli sighed slightly and didn't want to force it. The last time he called Yang Ming, he wanted to talk about this matter. But now it seemed that Yang Ming didn't want to go into the underworld. In fact, Bao Sanli could understand. Yang Ming was now a college student at Songjiang Industry University. That was a key university in the country. Who would ruin their future by going into the underworld? It wasn't like he couldn't survive. Yang Ming nodded. The two people talked about other topics and then Yang Ming got up and left. Out of Bao Sanli's office, Yang Ming suddenly felt that his future was a little confused. What am I going to do? What is my future? Money? Beauty? Or power? Yang Ming was a little absent-minded. Since I got this special ability, a lot of things happened that I didn't dare to think about before. Thinking about it, it was like a dream. But now all of this had really happened. Gambling, jade, being an assassin, but are these what I want to do in the future? Why did I become an assassin? To protect myself? To be more powerful in the future? Yang Ming felt that he was already at the edge of life. From the moment he saw Fong Tian personally deal with a corpse, he had stepped into a dark world. Now, recalling Bao Sanli's words, it would be good if he could establish some forces in the underworld. But now that he was involved in the underworld, wasn't he a little too anxious? The friendship between Yang Ming and Bao Sanli wasn't very deep. They only stayed in the same cell for more than a day. Although Yang Ming felt that Bao Sanli was a good person to be friends with, there was no need to put himself in danger because of a little loyalty. Yang Ming wasn't a fool. His current identity was just a small character. If he got involved too early, it would be easy for him to die without a burial place. No matter how good he was at fighting, he was afraid of a kitchen knife. Not to mention that these guys might have guns. But Yang Ming suddenly thought of another important thing. My hatred with Yu Xiangda isn't small. It can be seen that Yu Xiangda is a very vengeful person. If he dealt with Bao Sanli, would he turn around and deal with me? After all, I beat him up once and then I humiliated him. Although Yang Ming felt that the possibility of Yu Xiangda being killed by his partners was high, there were exceptions to everything, right? What if Yu Xiangda really got what he wanted and controlled the underworld of Songjiang? Shaking his head, Yang Ming returned to the private room. Tian Donghua had begun to touch a lady, and Zhang Bin was singing Tracker's Love with another lady. Yang Ming smiled and sat at the side, closing his eyes to rest. In fact, he was thinking about his future. Chapter 226. In the morning, Yang Ming went to class as usual. A few days had passed and Qin Mengyan hadn't given him any reply. Yang Ming could get news about Qin Mengyan from Zhang Bin every day. According to Zhang Bin, Qin Mengyan had become a little taciturn. Other than going to class, she would go back to the dormitory. She didn't do anything else. Yang Ming was a little worried, but he couldn't do anything. He had promised to give Qin Mengyan time to calm down, so they had to give each other some space. It wouldn't be good to chase too fast. Lan Ling still didn't contact him. However, Yang Ming wasn't worried. Because Lan Ling said that her grandmother was very powerful, he believed that she would definitely protect Lan Ling. The place they were going to was probably deep in the mountains. It was normal to have no mobile phone signal there. As for the daily training, Fong Tian increased the progress of Yang Ming's training. He would often ask Dong Jun to get some practice equipment from God knows where, even big things like bows and arrows and barbells. While admiring Dong Jun's skill, Yang Ming was also quickly completing the training tasks given by Fong Tian. The intensity of the recent tasks had obviously increased a lot. Yang Ming relaxed his tired arms. This assassin training wasn't something that ordinary people could practice. Ho Jinhan had been waiting at the entrance of Songjiang Industry University for 3 days. He came to find Yang Ming to return the money, but he was too nervous when he robbed Yang Ming's class. He had no choice but to wait at the entrance. In fact, he just needed to find a few classmates to ask Yang Ming. Maybe someone would know. Because Yang Ming had a battle with Rin Jianren last time, even if he wasn't a household name, his reputation was very high. However, Ho Jinhan was afraid of bringing trouble to Yang Ming. He had to wait for a while at the school entrance every morning and night, hoping to see Yang Ming come out. Today was like 2 days ago. Ho Jinhan was waiting at the entrance. Suddenly he saw the girl who was robbed by him that day hurrying to the campus. Lin Jiyun, as usual, rushed to school after making breakfast for her father. Because her mother earned money as a nanny, she had to eat and live in other people's houses, so Lin Jiyun's father could only be taken care of by her. Although it was troublesome to take the subway to school every day, Lin Jiyun didn't feel tired at all. She had to go out to tutor all day on Saturday and Sunday to earn money. Lin Jiyun felt that her life was very fulfilling. She didn't ask for herself to be rich in the future. She only asked for her parents to live a comfortable life that didn't need to work. Therefore Lin Jiyun had never given up. In the eyes of many students, Lin Jiyun was a simple, beautiful, serious and hardworking girl. But in the eyes of those rich people, Lin Jiyun was just a poor girl. When school just started, there was a sophomore playboy who took a fancy to Lin Jiyun and proposed to spend 100,000 yuan to keep Lin Jiyun as his mistress. Lin Jiyun was a girl with strong principles. The reason why she sold herself before was because she was forced to live. But now her family had passed through the difficulties. She had a good income as a tutor. She wasn't greedy for wealth, so she directly rejected the sophomore playboy. The sophomore playboy was very surprised. In his opinion, if he threw money in front of this poor girl, she would immediately go to a room with him. The sophomore playboy was very angry. Since he couldn't keep her, he went back to spread rumors that Lin Jiyun was pretending to be virtuous, but she was actually a prostitute. The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener did. His words just happened to touch Lin Jiyun's pain. Although it was only once, Lin Jiyun couldn't forget it for the rest of her life. She had sold herself before. This was a stain in her life. Lin Jiyun was distressed for a long time. Later, when she met Yang Ming again and saw that Yang Ming didn't know her, Lin Jiyun was relieved. Yes, the only person involved in that incident didn't remember it. This incident, let it be buried in the depths of memory forever. Ho Jinhan saw Lin Jiyun and his eyes immediately lit up. He was like a hungry wolf that caught its prey. He quickly ran to Lin Jiyun. It didn't matter if he ran, but Lin Jiyun was shocked. Lin Jiyun saw a man, and it was the man who robbed her that day, walking towards her quickly. Lin Jiyun almost shouted for help. Classmate. Ho Jinhan didn't know what Lin Jiyun's name was, so he had to call her classmate. Lin Jiyun listened to his tone and it didn't seem like he was here to rob again. She was slightly relieved. She thought that this was the school gate. He couldn't do anything, so she stopped and asked hesitantly, "You are looking for me?" "Yeah, classmate, I have been looking for you for several days." Ho Jinhan said excitedly. "You have been looking for me for several days?" Lin Jiyun didn't understand why Ho Jinhan was looking for her. And he even looked for her for several days. No, I'm not looking for you." Ho Jinhan quickly explained. "You're not looking for me? Then why are you?" Lin Jiyun was even more confused. What does this guy want to do? Actually, I'm looking for Yang Ming. I just happened to meet you." Ho Jinhan said, "Can you tell me where Yang Ming is?" Wait a minute." Lin Jiyun opened her school bag. There was a phone book with Yang Ming's phone number written on it. This was what Yang Ming left for her when he sent her home last time. At that time, Lin Jiyun didn't think that it would be useful. She just habitually wrote it down in the book. His phone number is 159XXXX0809. You can call him directly. Lin Jiyun said. Well, 159XXXX0809, right? I have written it down. Thank you. Ho Jin-han said quickly. You don't have to thank me. If there's nothing else, I will go first. Lin Jiun put the phone book back into her school bag and said to Ho Jin-han, I'm going to be late for class. Then you go quickly. Goodbye. Ho Jin-han nodded. In this era where cell phones were cheap, there were still many people who didn't have cell phones. Lin Jiun was one of them, so she still carried her phone book every day. Ho Jin-han was also one of them. After he got Yang Ming's phone number, he ran to a public phone and dialed the phone. Yang Ming picked up the phone. Although the class had started, the university was different from high school. The seats were randomly chosen. Yang Ming sat in the last row. Usually, the teacher wouldn't be able to see him when the class was open. Oh, is this Yang Ming? Asked Ho Jin-han. I'm Yang Ming. Who are you? Yang Ming heard a strange voice, and the phone number was also unfamiliar. I'm Ho Jin-han. Ho Jin-han said, I'm here to return your money. Ho Jin-han? Return my money? Yang Ming was stunned. When did a person named Ho Jin-han owe him money? I'm that. Ho Jin-han wanted to say that he was a robber, but now they were in a public phone booth. There were other people around, so it wasn't appropriate to say it. So he hesitated and said, It was that night when my mother had appendicitis surgery. Oh, I remember. It's you. Yang Ming suddenly realized. If it wasn't for Ho Jin-han's call, he would have almost forgotten about it. Too many things happened in these 2 days. Yang Ming's mind wasn't on this at all. You don't have to return the money. Buy some supplements for Auntie. Yang Ming saw that Ho Jin-han really returned the money as he said, and he knew that Ho Jin-han was a man of his word. As for the 2,000 yuan, it wasn't important. It was nothing to Yang Ming. How can that be? Where are you? I'll go and find you. Ho Jin-han said. Forget it. I'll go out. You tell me where you are. Yang Ming saw that Ho Jin-han insisted, so he said it. I'm at the main entrance of Songjiang Industry University. There is a Jingyuan sign on the side. I'm here. Ho Jin-han said. Okay, I got it. You wait for me there. Yang Ming finished and hung up the phone. Then he stood up and walked to the front of the classroom. The student, what's the matter? The lecturer saw that Yang Ming got up, so he asked. Teacher, my stomach isn't feeling well these days. I drank a bag of sausage tea yesterday, so... There was no need for Yang Ming to say the following words. The lecturer should be able to understand. Oh, okay, then you go. The lecturer nodded and said. Outside the classroom, Yang Ming was a little embarrassed. He hadn't lied for a long time. He remembered that he often used these reasons to avoid Chen Mengyan in high school. I really don't know how Chen Mengyan endured it. I should ask her about it some other day. But... Yang Ming hesitated again. Chen Mengyan and I are now in a Cold War relationship. Yang Ming sighed and didn't think about it. He quickly walked to the school gate. Chapter 227. When Yang Ming saw Ho Jin-han, this guy was still wearing the black clothes he wore that day. However, he didn't look as cool as he did that day. During the day, this was just an ordinary security uniform. It was already wrinkled and messy. Ho Jin-han. Yang Ming called. Ho Jin-han quickly turned his head. When he saw Yang Ming, he hurriedly trotted over. Benefactor. Ho Jin-han blurted out. Yang Ming frowned. Fortunately, there weren't many people around. Otherwise, if they heard Ho Jin-han, they might cast a strange look. Don't call me benefactor. Just call me Yang Ming. Yang Ming said faintly. How can that be? You are the benefactor of my family. Ho Jin-han was a little excited. You not only saved my mother but also saved me. After I went home, I thought about it again. I felt that I was very despicable. I actually robbed an unarmed and defenseless female student. I was really... Fortunately, you stopped me before it was too late. Otherwise, even if my mother's illness was cured, I wouldn't be happy. Then you call me Mr. Yang. The word benefactor is really awkward. Yang Ming saw that Ho Jin-han was sincere, so he let him change the title. Hey, Mr. Yang. Ho Jin-han nodded, then he took out a small bag from his pocket and handed it to Yang Ming. This is the rest of the money from the surgery. There is still 1,100 yuan. I will return it to you first. I will try to find a job to return the rest of the money to you. You don't have a job. Yang Ming glanced at Ho Jin-han and didn't take the money in his hand. Yes, but I was fired by the boss. I worked for 2 months and didn't get a penny. Ho Jin-han said with some indignation. Why? Asked Yang Ming. It was all deducted. In the hotel sometimes I couldn't stand the guests flirting with the waiters. I went up to stop it but the guests complained. Instead the boss deducted my salary. Ho Junhan shook his head and said helplessly, Hee, you obstructed the boss's path to wealth, so of course he fired you. Yang Ming was very open-minded about this kind of thing. Every industry has its own rules. As a participant you should follow the rules of this industry. Otherwise you'll be eliminated. But, should I just sit back and do nothing? Ho Junhan looked at Yang Ming in surprise. He didn't expect that this college student who was about the same age as him would say such vicissitudes of life. Unless you have enough ability to become the master of this industry, then you can set the rules as you please. Yang Ming said lightly, the hotel you went to is a small place, right? Well, it's not that big. How do you know? Asked Ho Junhan. If we can achieve the scale of the Nightless Club, no one will challenge this rule. They have their own rules. A lady is a lady and a waiter is a waiter. Yang Ming said with a smile. Ho Junhan nodded thoughtfully, then shook his head and sighed. He seemed to accept the cruel reality of society. Use this money to buy some nutrition for your mother. People who have undergone surgery are very weak. Yang Ming said, wait until you find a job in the future, then you can pay me back. How can this be? Ho Junhan hesitated. Yang Ming was telling the truth. The old man's body was not as good as the young man's. The young man would recover quickly after a cut, but the old man's physical functions were declining. If the nutrition couldn't keep up, the wound would be difficult to heal. Let's go. Let's buy something together. Yang Ming patted Ho Junhan's shoulder, then turned and walked in the direction of Zhang Bin's car. Get in the car. Yang Ming took out the remote control and opened the door. Ho Junhan didn't ask much. He obediently got in the car with Yang Ming. Yang Ming took him to a supermarket and bought some supplements. He then went to the market to buy some food that was good for wound recovery before driving to the hospital. He came to the ward with Ho Junhan, but he didn't see anyone on the bed. This was a 4-person ward and the environment was relatively simple. The family members of the other 3 beds were talking to their family members. And Ho Junhan was stunned. Then he asked a family member of the patient next to him, Big sister, have you seen my mother? Young man, you are back. The big sister next to him looked back and saw Ho Junhan. She quickly said, your mother was sent to the emergency room. What? Emergency room? Ho Junhan was shocked and asked anxiously, what happened, big sister? Why did my mother go to the emergency room? Your mother just got up to go to the toilet. The old lady walked slowly. Suddenly, a group of fierce young men came in the corridor. They shouted and asked the people on the side of the road to run forward. As a result, the old lady wasn't prepared, so she was pushed. Her wound split open and she bled profusely. Said the big sister. How was it pushed? It was a young man wearing sunglasses who kicked the old lady. His mouth also scolded her for being an old woman. It seemed that their boss was cut down and they were in a hurry to bandage the wound. A young man wearing glasses interjected. Where is my mother now? Ho Junhan's face was pale. He clenched his fist and his eyes were bloodshot. Young man, don't be excited. The doctor has already gone to rescue her. She should be in the emergency room, right? Said the big sister. Mom. Ho Junhan said as he rushed out of the ward. Yang Ming quickly pulled him and said, calm down. Where are you going? I want to find the person who kicked my mother. I want to kill him. Ho Junhan was about to go berserk. Where are you going to find the person? Yang Ming said coldly, follow me and control your emotions. Ho Junhan opened his mouth. After a while he said with a sigh of relief, okay. Yang Ming turned and went out of the door of the ward. He came to the nurse's station not far away. Then he found a nurse and asked, hello, I want to ask. There is an old woman in ward 409. Was she sent to the emergency room? You are? The nurse looked up and asked. I am her son. Ho Junhan said quickly, what happened to my mother? Your mother's wound is open. She has been sent to the operating room. I will help you contact the attending physician. If there is anything you can ask him. The little nurse said. Then did you see who made my mother like this? Ho Junhan asked suddenly. No. The little nurse shook her head quickly. How is it possible? You are lying. My mother went to the toilet. The toilet is opposite the stairs. You saw it clearly from here. How can you say that you didn't see it? Ho Junhan suddenly widened his eyes and his veins were exposed. What are you doing? I really didn't see it. The little nurse was frightened. Hey, what's wrong with you? At this time, an older nurse came over and glared at Ho Junhan. I'm sorry, Auntie. My friend is a little emotional. Yang Ming quickly pulled Ho Junhan's clothes and said to the older nurse, Auntie, did you see the person who caused the accident? They came up with a large group of people. It was bustling. They were all wearing sunglasses. How could we see it clearly? The older nurse shook her head. But I heard them shouting in the hospital. They are Brother Da's people. If the doctor doesn't come out quickly, they will smash the hospital. Brother Da? Yang Ming sneered. Mfu Xiangda. Young man, you can't afford to provoke these people. Let's just forget about this. Don't look for trouble. The older nurse tried to persuade her. Your friend is too emotional. This is a young nurse who just graduated from our department. She's young, so how can she withstand such a fright? Besides, this happened. Who dares to go and take a look? At this time, Ho Junhan's mood had eased a lot. He scratched his head embarrassedly and said to the little nurse, I'm sorry. I was too anxious. I didn't scare you, right? No, nothing. The little nurse said shyly. Her face was slightly red. Although this little nurse wasn't a beauty, she was very delicate. Yang Ming didn't feel anything, but Ho Junhan was a little stunned. Auntie, where are those people now? Yang Ming didn't care about Ho Junhan and continued to ask. Those people were just superficial wounds. They left after they were bandaged. The older nurse shook her head. They didn't even give money, but the doctors in the hospital are experienced. They don't dare to take money from such people. Then why didn't you call the police? Ho Junhan said angrily. Yang Ming shook his head. Ho Junhan still doesn't seem to understand this society. It's too idealistic. However, wasn't I like this in the beginning? It's just that in recent times I have matured. Sure enough, the older nurse shook her head and said, call the police? At most, they would delay the medical fees. Even if the police came, it would only be a mediation. After the police leave, they would come back to retaliate against us. He was a special forces soldier in Country D. After he retired, he joined a mercenary group and got a high salary that I could never dream of. As for me, I was fired as a security guard. When Yang Ming heard Ho Junhan's words, his heart moved. He was even more certain of his earlier thought. What do you think of the underworld? Yang Ming suddenly asked. Underworld? He hit my mother. If I catch him, I will beat him up. Ho Junhan said bitterly. Oh, what if they didn't hit your mother? Yang Ming asked again. Then, what does their good or bad have to do with me? Ho Junhan shook his head. Do you want to do something? The reason why Yang Ming dared to say these words to Ho Junhan was that he completely believed in this person's character. From the fact that he guarded the door and returned the remaining money, it could be seen that there was no problem with Ho Junhan's character. This person wasn't greedy for money and didn't have many crooked thoughts. It was precisely because of this that Yang Ming thought of his own plan. Do something? Ho Junhan was stunned, but then he said with some surprise, you want me to join the underworld? Yang Ming looked at him and nodded slowly. Why? Ho Junhan looked at Yang Ming with some incomprehension. He didn't understand why this college student suddenly suggested that he join the underworld. Help me or to give you a meal. Yang Ming said faintly. Help you? Ho Junhan was stunned. What do you mean? Yang Ming looked at Ho Junhan's eyes and didn't speak for a long time. Until Ho Junhan was a little scared, he said, because I want to be a rule maker. This was the result of Yang Ming's consideration in the past few days. If he didn't have strength, then he would always be bullied by some people. If he had strength, then there wouldn't be people like Wang Jitao and Sun Jiwei. However, Yang Ming didn't want to be involved in the underworld. After all, the underworld was very troublesome. Once he entered, it would be difficult to get out. He originally wanted to use Bao Sanli as his spokesperson to do something. However, Yang Ming thought about it again and again. Although his relationship with Bao Sanli was good, and Bao Sanli was also more submissive to him, it didn't mean that Bao Sanli was willing to be under Yang Ming's command. Why? Bao Sanli just felt that Yang Ming had some fighting strength, but excluding this, Bao Sanli didn't think that Yang Ming had anything special. If Yang Ming could help him, then it was fair to occupy the north and south of the city with Yang Ming. However, if Yang Ming retreated behind the scenes, then why would Bao Sanli bow to Yang Ming? When he heard that Bao Sanli was a special forces soldier, a bold idea was formed. Yes, if Ho Junhan could be his spokesperson, then everything would be solved. Ho Junhan took out a cigarette, lit it with trembling hands and took a big puff. He couldn't believe that the young man in front of him, who was about the same age as him, would actually say such shocking words. Ho Junhan was an honest person. Yang Ming had helped him twice. In his heart he had already regarded Yang Ming as a benefactor. Yes, if there wasn't the appearance of Yang Ming, it would be a problem whether he could grab the money to save his mother. Even if he could grab it, what would he become now? Therefore, it was reasonable for him to agree to whatever Yang Ming asked him to do without hesitation. But now Yang Ming's suggestion was to let him mingle with the underworld. Is there any essential difference between the underworld and robbery? Ho Junhan was a little confused. Those people who just pushed his mother were even more hateful than robbers in his opinion. But he didn't expect that he would become a part of them. I don't want to do bad things. After smoking a cigarette, Ho Junhan said slowly. During this period, Yang Ming had been watching him silently. Yes, Yang Ming was also very nervous. His idea was too crazy. Yang Ming even felt that he was taking advantage of Ho Junhan's weakness. He was taking advantage of Ho Junhan's honesty and gratitude to him. He actually asked him to do this kind of thing. Ho Junhan only said, "I don't want to," but he didn't say, "I won't do it." This meant that in a sense he had already promised Yang Ming. What do you think is good and what is bad? Yang Ming smiled and asked, for example, the agents of the two countries fought when they were carrying out a mission. Then which side is good? Which side is bad? This. Ho Junhan was stunned. Yes, Yang Ming's question was really impossible to answer. He could only say, it can be considered as serving their own masters. This is it. When you do things, as long as you have a clear conscience, it will be fine. Yang Ming said, the underworld will always exist. But if you want to rectify it, you must be the one who sets the rules. I understand. Ho Junhan nodded and said firmly, what should I do? Now the underworld of Songjiang is very chaotic. There may be a bloody storm soon. I have a friend who has a lot of power in the south of the city. His opposite is Brother Da, who was mentioned by the nurse, and Yu Xiangda in the north of the city. Yang Ming said, what you have to do is to help my friend deal with Yu Xiangda. Okay. When Ho Junhan heard that he was dealing with Brother Da, who caused his mother to be injured today, he immediately said without hesitation. Yang Ming sighed secretly. He hoped that Ho Junhan would not blame him in the future. Although this road was difficult, it did not mean that it was impossible. As for me, I will find other people to help you secretly. The other people that Yang Ming mentioned were himself, but he was not ready to reveal his identity as an assassin. For the specific plan, we will find a place where there is no one to talk about it. Now let's look at Auntie's condition first. Ho Junhan nodded and stood up. Mr. Yang, I, Ho Junhan, have returned this favor. If something happens to me in the future, you take care of my mother for me. Sure. Yang Ming nodded and smiled. But you have watched too many movies. The underworld is not as dangerous as you think. It was indeed Ho Junhan who thought too much. If it was so easy to kill people, Bao Sanli would have sent someone to assassinate Yu Xiangda, or Yu Xiangda would have sent someone to assassinate Bao Sanli. Bao Sanli said with some joy, right, Brother Yang, you called me. Did you figure it out? Yu Xiangda's man went to the hospital? Yang Ming was stunned. The association saw the situation in the hospital today. It was most likely that the person who was killed pushed Ho Junhan's mother to the ground. Today I accompanied my friend to the hospital. I heard that Yu Xiangda's man was injured. I guessed it was you. Yang Ming smiled. He hesitated and didn't say his plan. Now was the time when Bao Sanli won and was proud of himself. If Yang Ming proposed to find someone to help him, Bao Sanli would definitely not pay attention. But if Bao Sanli made this suggestion when he was at a disadvantage, it would undoubtedly be a timely help. Yang Ming's bargaining chip would also increase a lot. So Yang Ming immediately decided to wait. In a sense, Yang Ming wasn't the kind of selfless person. Before doing anything, he would first consider his own interests and then others. In fact, this was the nature of most people. Yang Ming was just one of them. Haha, then it really is true. It's really cool. Bao Sanli smiled and said, it seems that the people on Yu Xiangda's side aren't that good. Yeah, it's nothing. I just asked casually. Keep in touch. Yang Ming said. Right, Brother Yang, what do you think of the matter that I mentioned? Asked Bao Sanli. Hee, let's talk about it later. You don't need me now. Yang Ming smiled and said, my main job now is still to study. You are right. You are a college student. It's quite difficult for you to mingle with others. Bao Somli nodded and said, that's fine. I won't force you. When you want to come over and help me, just tell me. You are my best right-hand man. No problem. Yang Ming said straightforwardly. After hanging up the phone, Yang Ming fell into contemplation. Previously, Bao Somli told him that the two of them would work together to conquer the world. But today it became to help him and let him be his right-hand man. It seems that everyone is selfish. If possible, who is willing to be in a lower position? People like Ho Jinhan are too few. However, it was no wonder. Bao Somli won a big battle today. It was normal for his self-confidence to be inflated. Overall, this person was still very loyal. Yang Ming believed that even if he went over to help him, he would still agree to the previous conditions. However, since there is a better opportunity, why not wait a little longer? Yang Ming skipped class for a day. Fortunately, the tutor had already informed him in advance. Otherwise, Yang Ming's trouble was really big. This time, even Sun Jiwei couldn't do anything. Xie Yongqiang had spoken. What can you, a class monitor, do? You are just a spokesperson for the tutor. It was the weekend. It was the day to promote the 7 forbid dances, 5 disciplines and 4 beauties at the train station. This was an activity jointly organized by the Student Union, the Environmental Protection Department, and the Urban Management Department. The other classes were basically the class committee. Only Yang Ming was a non-public official. He was at least a dormitory leader. Computer Science Level 08 Class 2 went with Yang Ming together with the female vice class monitor, Song Yu, and a bookworm that Sun Jiwei didn't like. In fact, this was a good opportunity for the class committee. The secretaries and tutors in the department all participated. They could establish a good relationship with them through this activity. It was very convenient whether it was running for the student union or staying in the school in the future. Maybe Sun Jiwei didn't care about these and left this opportunity to Song Yu and herself. The department secretary first let the tutors of each class register the volunteer students who were present. Yang Ming knew that this list to a large extent became the department secretary's reference standard for the students. However, Yang Ming didn't want to join the student union or stay in the school, so this wasn't very useful to him. The 3 people in the opposite class of Level 08 Class 1 were the class committee. They were the class monitor Yu Shuai, the vice class monitor Zhou Jiajia, and the life committee member Li Xiaoji. Because they were in the opposite class, the 6 people were inevitably assigned to the same group. The train station was generally the most chaotic place in every city. There were a lot of people from all over the country, some ticket scalpers, thieves and gangsters gathered here. Although the city was also rectifying, this kind of thing didn't solve the root cause. It came back in 2.5 days. Therefore, considering the safety of the students, the school only agreed that the students had the right to promote. It didn't encourage them to stop some people who violated the 7 forbid dances, 5 disciplines and 4 beauties. Even so, the school still sent some physical education teachers and security to ensure the safety of the students. Zhou Jiajia and Song Yu were the leaders of Yang Ming's group. Song Yu, on the other hand, was easy to deal with because she was the most senior official in Class 2. However, the class monitor of Class 1 Yu Shuai was also there. He just said ladies first. In fact, many people in the class saw that Yu Shuai was interested in Zhou Jiajia and deliberately let her be his leader. Who was the leader had nothing to do with Yang Ming. He just wanted to get through this day. Originally, he wanted to ask Xie Yongqiang for leave and not come, but he thought that instructor Xie had already given him a lot of face. If he didn't even give this face, it would be a bit too much. Yang Ming and the boy in his class, Lu Huang, who wasn't liked by Sun Jiwei, carried the bulletin board. Zhou Jiajia and Song Yu held the flyer. Yu Shuai and Li Xiaoji took the loudspeaker and amplifier and rushed to the pre-planned area. They were responsible for promoting near the ticket entrance of the train station. It was a relatively chaotic area. Ticket scalpers and thieves were more concentrated in this area. Of course, Yang Ming only knew about this. The few students who hadn't entered society didn't understand this at all. They thought that it was more lively here. After setting up the bulletin board and connecting the amplifier and sound system, the promotional activities began. Yang Ming and the others picked up a stack of leaflets and handed them out. Yang Ming usually looked for some old people to hand them out. Only these people would be interested in these leaflets. The leaflets that were given to the young people would be thrown away the moment they were given to them. The flyers were clearly printed: 7 forbid dances, no throwing peels and confetti. Chapter 230. He didn't know if it was because a person's personality had changed, or she had grown up and had a different view of things. Zhou Jiejia, who used to be so serious, had now become a little more sophisticated. The flyer was thrown to the ground. Zhou Jiejia just silently picked it up and threw it into a recycling bin behind her. Yang Ming looked and shook his head. This was a completely different person from the Zhou Jiejia in his memory. His previous memory had become fragmented in front of this person now. However, Yang Ming had a very evil thought. Could Zhou Jiejia be a person with dual personalities? He actually played an erotic video? What's the matter with you? Why are you so rude? Yang Ming turned around. It turned out to be Song Yu's voice. At this moment she was pointing at a young man wearing sunglasses and said sternly, "How can you spit on the flyer and then throw it on the ground? Fuck, you gave it to me so it's mine. I can do whatever I want." The young man glared at Song Yu and scolded. "It's the obligation of every citizen not to throw peels and confetti." Song Yu frowned. She didn't expect the person in front of her to be so rude. "Biaozi, why aren't you leaving? What are you doing here?" A bald man came to the side of the sunglasses man and said impatiently, "This little girl is talking to me about the 5 disciplines and 4 beauties, and the 7 imperatives of the city." Fuck, I'm dying of laughter. The sunglasses man laughed unscrupulously. "Reminds me of my childhood. What a familiar voice. Why are you wasting time with her? Hurry up. Brother De said that we have to study the battle plan today." The bald man reminded. "Little girl, remember. Next time don't talk to the underworld about the 5 disciplines and 4 beauties." The sunglasses man reached out and patted Song Yu's face. Then he grabbed a few flyers from her hand and tore them to pieces in front of her and threw them on the ground. Song Yu was a little angry. She didn't expect this person to be so excessive. Even Zhou Jiejia on the side couldn't stand it. She said with slight anger, "Aren't you a bit too much?" "Too much?" The sunglasses man Biaozi said to the bald man next to him, "Quantum Master, did you hear that? He said I was too much." Idiot. Quantum Master glanced at Zhou Jiejia and suddenly showed a pig's expression. "Yo, little girl. You are quite pretty. Do you want to have fun with your brother? What the fuck are you talking about?" As soon as Yu Shuai heard it, he couldn't take it anymore. Because the person who was insulted was the person he liked, Yu Shuai's words were a bit harsh. However, he also looked carefully. There were only 2 people on the other side and there were 4 young men on his side. Besides, the teachers in the school were patrolling nearby. The bald head Liangzi rolled his eyes and glanced at Yu Shuai. "Who the fuck farted to make you come out? SAS toot." At this time, Li Shaoji also stepped forward. Li Shaoji was Yu Shuai's confidant, so naturally he would help Yu Shuai. Therefore Yu Shuai wasn't afraid of him. "If you apologize to her, nothing will happen. Otherwise, what's wrong?" The sunglasses man Biaozi was a little unhappy. He was flirting with the little girl. He wasn't interested in talking to this stupid student. "Otherwise, why did you hit me? Idiot. What are you talking about?" Biaozi pushed the sunglasses man. Showing off in front of the woman you like is a common trait for most men. But if this trick is used well, it can often get a miraculous effect. Therefore, many people have tried it time and time again. For example, Yang Ming once read a web novel. In it, there was a person named Lu Lei who was a master at acting tough. He was a master at acting tough. It was just that that person had the ability to show off, so he could show off successfully. As for Biaozi, Yang Ming didn't know if Biaozi had this ability, so he had been looking at him coldly. "Little idiot, do you want to die?" The sunglasses man Biaozi saw that Biaozi actually dared to make the first move. He immediately became anxious and raised his hand to give Biaozi a slap. Biaozi wasn't stupid. After pushing the sunglasses man, he dodged back and then shouted, "Brothers, these 2 guys are stirring up trouble. Let's fix them together." His words were actually for Yang Ming and Lu Huang because Li Xiaoji was originally on the same side as him. Lu Huang belonged to the kind of bookworm. He only knew how to write and draw all day long, so Sun Jiwei didn't like him. How could he participate in this kind of fight? Lu Huang saw that something happened here and hid far away. He almost ran away. Li Xiaoji wasn't a person who could fight. Generally, students who could be admitted to university with their own ability were basically the kind of good students in high school. Of course, sports students were an exception. Like Li Xiaoji and Biaozi, they almost didn't fight in high school. Occasionally, they would show off in front of their classmates. When they really fought, they didn't know what to do. Li Xiaoji was still eager to try, but when he saw that Yang Ming didn't want to help at all, he was a little overwhelmed. Looking at the two people in front of him, he knew that they weren't good people at first glance. They must be veterans of fighting. If he just went up like this, it was tantamount to courting death. Idiot! The man in sunglasses saw the situation on Yu Shuai's side at a glance. He arrogantly took a step forward, then pointed at Yu Shuai's head and said arrogantly, "Have you become stupid from studying in school?" Then he directly kicked Biaozi and scolded, "Fuck your mother. You dare to be cocky with this kind of idiot? Do you believe that I will cripple you?" When Yang Ming heard the bald man Liangzi's words of greeting his mother, his pupils immediately shrank. He turned around and kicked the bald man Liangzi's head. Suddenly there was a bloody mark on his big bald head. Yang Ming was a fighting master before. Now, after Fong Tian's training, he could even kill with one move. If Yang Ming's kick was a little lower and the strength was a little stronger, the bald man Liangzi would have become a dead man. But even so, this guy still held his head in pain and squatted on the ground. It was so painful that he wanted to die. Chapter 231. The sunglasses man Biaozi didn't expect Yang Ming to be so ruthless. He kicked Liangzi until he couldn't fight back. He was a little shocked. He took 2 steps back in horror and said, "Who are you? Let me tell you, we are not so easy to mess with. If you don't want to die, you better give me a satisfactory explanation." I think you also want to taste the feeling of being kicked in the head, right? Yang Ming saw that this guy's face was pale, but he was still talking. He couldn't help but admire his courage. "Let me tell you, we are all brother's men. This is not over." The sunglasses man Biaozi looked at Yang Ming and warned him, "Brother Da, Yu Xiangda is an idiot, right? You go back and tell him that he is going to die soon." Yang Ming said faintly, "What? You dare to scold Brother Da?" But just as he said this, the sunglasses man Biaozi's pants were pulled. Biaozi looked down. Liangzi didn't know when his pain had been relieved. He was shaking his head at him. Yes. Biaozi suddenly realized. In Songjiang, many people knew that Brother Da was the underworld boss, but they didn't know the real name of Brother Da. Even if they knew, few dared to call him by his name. Therefore, the student in front of him was probably also a person from the underworld. If the underworld people weren't from the north of the city, then they were from the south of the city. Listening to his tone, he might really be from Bao Sanli's side. Now the two groups were fighting to the death. Yang Ming's strength was so strong. If he was really annoyed, it was hard to guarantee that he would beat him again. Thinking of this, Biaozi quickly helped Liangzi up and ran. He left some words as he ran. "You go back and tell Bao Sanli that Brother De is not done with him. Let's see how long he can be arrogant." Yang Ming listened to Biaozi's words, but he immediately understood and couldn't help but smile. It seemed that these two guys thought that he was from Bao Sanli's side, and escalated the conflict between them into a conflict between two gangs. But this is also good. Let it be a misunderstanding. At least the two of them won't come back to find Yang Ming's personal trouble again. Because he definitely thought that Yang Ming's provocation was entirely because of the two gangs. "Thank you, Yang Ming." Song Yu saw that the two gangsters were beaten away by Yang Ming's, and she thanked him with lingering fear. But she said with worry, "Yang Ming, why don't we talk to the teacher and ask him to send 2 people from the security office? I am afraid that the gangers will retaliate." "It's okay. They won't come." Yang T. Biaozi. Biao was Bibiaozi's Lutas Yang, S and B's. When Zhou Jiejia saw that Yang Ming actually took the initiative to talk to her, she couldn't help but feel happy. However, looking at Yang Ming's expression, it seemed that he was saying that she was meddling in other people's business. Zhou Jiejia sighed secretly. Is he implying something else? Is he complaining that I shouldn't have done so many things in the past? Zhou Jiejia was about to explain, but she saw that Yang Ming had turned his head and continued to distribute the flyers. Although Song Yu and Zhou Jiejia were fine, the class monitor Yu Shuai was kicked by the sunglasses guy. Yu Shuai didn't exercise much, so his body's resistance to attacks was relatively weak. Plus, the kick was in the lower abdomen where the bladder was located. It was really painful. If it was serious, it would cause the bladder to bleed. So Yu Shuai hated Yang Ming. Why didn't you make a move just now? Why did you stand there and watch? If Yu Shuai's thoughts were known by Yang Ming would beat this kid on the spot. If you weren't in a hurry to be a hero in front of the beauty, would you be kicked? You don't have the strength, but you still pretend to be a hero. You are lucky that I didn't kick you to death. Sure enough, as Yang Ming expected, the two underlings of Yu Xiangde didn't come to find trouble again. Obviously, they had put their anger on Bao Sanli. The two groups were already like fire and water, so they didn't mind adding more conflicts. Yang Ming didn't feel that his actions would bring any trouble to Bao Sanli. Half a day passed in a blink of an eye. It was time for lunch. The school ordered lunch boxes for everyone. Yang Ming also received a box. When he opened it, the quality of the food inside was not bad. There were 2 vegetarian dishes and 1 meat. It was considered good for free. It was now November. It was the season from late autumn to early winter. The terrain of the train station was empty, so the wind was very strong. Yang Ming quickly finished the lunch boxes with the wind. Looking at the others, it was the same. The workload in the afternoon was obviously less than in the morning, and everyone's enthusiasm for work was not as high as in the morning. The other groups were similar to Yang Ming's group. They encountered a lot of unreasonable people, but there was no conflict. When they gathered, the secretary and the counselors asked each group to report their work situation and experience. When it came to Yang Ming's group, after Zhou Jiejia and Song Yu reported, Yu Shuai hated Yang Ming, so he added, except for Yang Ming having a conflict with 2 little punks in the society, the work is satisfactory. What do you mean by other than Yang Ming having a little conflict with 2 hooligans in society and having a fight? Is this a small matter? The secretary immediately frowned after listening. How did this Yu Shuai become the class monitor? If you have something to say, just say it. You still pretend to be indifferent. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? Looking at you, there is a 99% chance that you said this deliberately. You want me to hold you accountable, right? The previous 2 team leaders didn't say this, but you said it. What do you mean? Yes, as a class cadre, it is right to be upright, but you don't seem to be upright. You're snitching. The secretary didn't like Yu Shuai's obvious way of pretending to spill the beans and snitching. Can't you say it properly? So he asked, what the hell is going on? Yu Shuai quickly pretended to be very embarrassed. He looked at Yang Ming and looked at Zhou Jiejia, but he didn't speak. The secretary was even more annoyed with this guy in front of him. Yu Shuai, your character seems to be very problematic. You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it? You pretended to spill the beans before, but now you are pretending to be a good person. Okay, don't say anything. I will talk to Xie Yongqiang in a while. It is best not to use this kind of narrow-minded person with bad intentions. Don't even think about the student union. Let me say it. Song Yu knew that this matter was caused by her, and Yang Ming also stood up for her, so she told the whole story truthfully. In the end, she also apologized. I'm sorry, Department Secretary. I just hid this matter because I was afraid that the school would worry about us. The secretary nodded after listening, but his face was not very good. Yu Shuai, you were really good. You didn't say anything when you stood up and got beaten up. The other party beat up the hooligans, but you are quite noisy. Aren't you biting the hand that feeds you? Okay, I will remember it. Yu Shuai listened to Song Yu's explanation, and his face couldn't help but turn green and red. He originally wanted to complain about Yang Ming, but he didn't expect it to end up like this. It seemed that the secretary was angry with him, so he quickly made up for it. Secretary, in fact, what I mean is that Yang Ming's intention was good, but the way he dealt with it was a bit extreme. He should have gone to the teacher first. Yeah, I don't know why you didn't go to the teacher at that time. After Yang Ming heard it, he inserted a sentence faintly. The situation was urgent. I had no choice but to do it. Yu Shuai was shocked. How could he forget this? Instead, he was checkmated by Yang Ming. You also said that the situation was urgent. If I went to the teacher, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to stand up now, right? Yang Ming's words were a bit sinister, but the people present also knew that Yang Ming was telling the truth. Alright, let's end this here. It's fine as long as there is no big deal. The secretary said, well, let's end it here today. Everyone can disperse. If you want to go back to school, stay. The school bus will come in a while. If you don't want to go back to school, sign here and you can go by yourself. Yang Ming was going to go home. Originally, Yang Ming went home every Friday, but because of today's promotion Yang Ming didn't go back, so he decided to go back today. Yang Ming stopped a car on the road. As he was about to get in he saw Zhou Jiejia and Song Yu running over. Yang Ming frowned and had to ask, "What's the matter?" "Wait for us." "Hee, Yang Ming, I heard that your house is near the Songjiang bus factory?" Zhou Jiejia ran over and asked. "Aren't you asking the obvious?" Yang Ming sneered in his heart. They were junior high school classmates. It was written clearly in the contact book. Was there a need to hear about it? However, because Song Yu was next to him, she was the assistant class monitor of her class. Yang Ming and Sun Jiwei didn't get along well, so he would definitely trouble Song Yu in the future. Therefore Yang Ming didn't expose it. He just said, "Yes, what's the matter?" Chapter 232. Song Yu and I are going there too. Can you give us a ride? Zhou Jiejia said with a smile. Get in the car. Yang Ming nodded helplessly. Yang Ming couldn't refuse Zhou Jiejia's request. Yang Ming sat in the front passenger seat while Zhou Jiejia and Song Yu sat in the back. After getting in the car, Yang Ming asked the two girls behind, "Where are you going?" "After passing by Red Flag High School we can go down," Zhou Jiejia said. Yang Ming nodded and then said to the driver, "Sir, go to Red Flag High School first, then go to the Songjiang bus factory staff community." "Okay, no problem." The driver nodded and started the car. In the car Zhou Jiejia didn't say anything to Yang Ming. He just whispered to Song Yu. Yang Ming didn't take the initiative to talk to them. After arriving at Red Flag High School they got off. When Yang Ming returned home his parents were busy cooking. Before coming back Yang Ming had already called and said that he was coming back for dinner. So Yang Dehai went to the supermarket to buy fresh food in advance and got busy with Mother Yang. Yang Ming was admitted to university and he could make money himself. His family won a prize and had a certain amount of savings. Yang Dehai was no longer as frugal as before. At least the salary of two people could be used to subsidize the family. "Dad, Mom, why are you making so much delicious food? It's almost enough." "Don't bother." Yang Ming took off his coat, then washed his hands and went into the kitchen to help his parents. "Big Ming, don't do it. Your dad and I will be busy. The meat is fried. You eat it first." Mother Yang handed a pair of washed chopsticks to Yang Ming. "Mom, I'm not in a hurry to eat. What else is there to do? I will help you." Yang Ming put the chopsticks on the table, but he wasn't in a hurry to eat. Big Ming is right. He's so old. He should learn some housework. Yang Dehai nodded after listening and said, "When we get married in the future, we can't just serve them." "What's wrong with that?" Mother Yang didn't mind. How many young people nowadays know how to work? Qin Mengyan is also the only child in her family. When she marries Big Ming in the future I will serve them. Look at what you're saying. They're a couple living together. If you go, won't you be a third wheel? Yang Dehai smiled and said, "When the time comes, if the children want to eat ready-made food, just let us know in advance. Both of us will be busy at home. When they come back they will eat and go back after eating." "That's right. After little Ming gets married, we can let him and Qin Mengyan come to our house every day to eat before leaving." When Mother Yang mentioned that her son was going to get married, she was a little reluctant. Naturally, she wanted to see her son every day. Yang Ming felt that his parents were getting more and more ridiculous. He quickly coughed and interrupted, "Dad, Mom, I'm only in my first year of college. I'm still far from marriage. Why are you worrying about me?" "How is it far? Don't think that I don't understand you young people because I'm old. Now there are reports in the newspaper and on TV. Our colleagues also have children in college. They told me that there are a lot of couples who rent a house and live together outside." Mother Yang said, "Big Ming, you can rest assured. Your mother isn't an unenlightened old stubborn person. I won't interfere with your matters." "Mom, why are you getting more and more ridiculous?" Yang Ming said so, but in his heart I've been living together with Lon Ling for a long time. I just didn't tell my family. "Right, Big Ming, how is your progress with Qin Mengyan? When are you going to bring her home to play? Didn't we agree last time?" Mother Yang asked. Let's talk about it later." Yang Ming was a little embarrassed. His relationship with Qin Mengyan was quite tense recently. Even if he invited her she might not agree. "How can we talk about it later? Big Ming, your mother is also an experienced person. I know some of your matters. You are a child born in the 90s. It's not a strange thing to have a girlfriend in college. Many children start to fall in love in junior high school. Mother Yang said, Sister Wang from our community is a girl. She rented a house outside with her male classmate. The matter between the two of them is most likely settled. If there is a chance, I will bring her back. Yang Ming had no choice but to say it perfunctorily. But he also understood his mother's current mood. Yes, most of the parents in China have the same idea as them. Since the child was born, they were worried about their future. From kindergarten to preschool, they began to plan a beautiful future for them. They would go to a famous primary school, then a key middle school, be admitted to a good high school, and finally expect them to go to college. After going to college, they would find a job, get married, and have children. Now that Yang Ming had successfully entered a famous university in China, and he didn't have to worry about a job in the future. So, Mother Yang put her eyes on her son's marriage. Yang Ming could understand these, but his current situation was a bit special. He would never give up on Lan Ling but Qin Mengyan. After all, she was the first girl he truly fell in love with after Su Ye's hazy first love. He didn't want to give up either. So the problem was whether Qin Mengyan could accept him and Lan Ling. Yang Ming didn't think that the girls in reality would be like those girls in online novels who would allow their boyfriends to have multiple wives or even help them find other girlfriends. Now, every girl was very assertive, so it would be difficult for Qin Mengyan to accept him. During the conversation, Yang Dehai put the last dish, sweet and sour carp, on the table and said, Okay, it's time to eat. Yang Ming took out the rice bowls from the cupboard and put 3 bowls of rice on the table. Mother Yang also took the bowls and chopsticks. The family of 3 sat around the big table and ate dinner happily. However, this warm moment was interrupted by a burst of urgent phone ringing. Mother Yang got up to answer the phone. Yang Ming and Yang Dehai also put down their chopsticks and waited for her to come back to continue eating. What? Yang Li, speak slowly. Mother Yang's voice came over. Don't worry, second aunt is listening. Hey, you wait a minute. I will ask your second uncle to answer the phone. After that she shouted, Dehai, come and answer the phone. In fact, there was no need for Mother Yang to shout. Yang Dehai and Yang Ming had already stood up and prepared to go over. Because from Mother Yang's abnormal tone, something must have happened on the other end of the phone. Yang Dehai quickly took the phone. Yang Li? I'm your second uncle. Why are you looking for me? Second uncle, my father was kidnapped. Yang Li's panicked voice came from the phone. You said that your elder brother was kidnapped? Yang Dehai was stunned and said, What happened? Who kidnapped him? I don't know. My father didn't come back last night. My mother and I thought that my father had a social engagement outside, so we didn't care. Until tonight he didn't contact us. When I called his mobile phone, it was turned off. Yang Li said, Not long after, we received a call from a strange man who claimed that my father was in his hands. He was currently very safe. He told us not to call the police. Otherwise he would kill my father. Then did you call the police? Yang Dehai asked quickly. No, we didn't dare. Yang Li said, My mother was so scared that she sat on the bed. I didn't have any idea, so I called you to see. Yang Li, you wait at home. We will come over immediately. Everything will wait until we meet. Yang Dehai knew that it wasn't clear on the phone, so he said quickly. Then you should hurry up. Yang Li said. Because Yang Li was more agitated and the phone receiver was relatively loud, Yang Ming heard the words clearly. He knew that his uncle was kidnapped and sighed slightly. This cousin of his would only take the initiative to call him at such a time. But no matter what, they were relatives. Yang Ming couldn't ignore it. Even if he didn't want to care, his father couldn't sit idly by. So Yang Ming didn't say much. He put on his clothes and went downstairs with his parents. He stopped a taxi and went straight to Yang Li's home. The person who opened the door was Yang Li. At this moment, Yang Li didn't have the arrogance of the past. She was standing by the side anxiously. Yang Ming's aunt was sitting on the sofa with a pale face. When she saw Yang Ming and them coming, she reluctantly gave them a smile. Then it was replaced by sadness. Sister-in-law, don't worry. Let's find a way together. Mother Yang quickly walked over and sat next to the aunt, comforting her. Yang Li, tell me the situation. Yang Ming didn't want to see his aunt sad. Although his uncle and Yang Li weren't very good to him, this aunt had always been very concerned about him. When he was admitted to university, his aunt secretly gave him 1,000 yuan. So without looking at other things, Yang Ming decided to help because of his aunt's face. Chapter 233. But he didn't expect Yang Li to roll her eyes at him. Is it useful to tell you? You're just a child. Don't get involved. Yang Ming was a little annoyed. He pointed at Yang Li and said, Yang Li, let me tell you. If it weren't for Auntie's face, I really wouldn't bother with your family's matters. Yang Ming was no longer the same as before. Not only did he have special abilities, but he was also the only successor of the King of Assassins. With his current strength, it wasn't difficult to help Yang Li. Big Ming, how can you say that? Yang Dahai glared at his son and quickly comforted Yang Li. Don't be angry. Your brother is just worried. Yang Ming snorted. To be honest, he really wanted to leave on the spot. But for his father's face, he still held back his anger and sat aside. Second uncle, what do you think I should do now? After Yang Li scolded Yang Ming, she had no idea in her heart. Although Yang Dahai was older, he had never experienced this kind of thing in his life. He didn't have any idea for a while. Yang Ming, on the other hand, was quite calm. After all, he was a person who had walked out of the detention center. In addition, his social experience had skyrocketed recently, so he didn't seem to be anxious. Instead, he asked very calmly, other than telling you not to call the police, what other requests did he make? For example, ransom or something like that. Yang Li was obviously dissatisfied with Yang Ming's interruption, but when she heard Yang Ming's words were very reasonable, she couldn't throw a tantrum. So she replied truthfully, no, the person on the other side of the phone just told me to wait for his call. That's right. Yang Ming said faintly, now we don't have to do anything. We just have to wait here. Wait. Do you want to kill my father? Yang Li was immediately annoyed. Yang Ming glanced at his cousin with disdain. It was said that people with big breasts have no brains. His cousin's breasts were far worse than Sun Jie's. Sun Jie was 100 times smarter than her. It seemed that there was no scientific basis for the saying that women with big breasts have no brains. Yang Ming wanted to explain, but his aunt spoke first. Lily, Big Ming is right. The only thing we can do now is to wait for them to call us. They haven't made any demands yet, so they won't hurt your father. We'll wait for them to call and tell us what they want, and then we'll decide based on the situation. The auntie had calmed down a little and was able to think normally. Yang Li listened to her mother's words and felt that it was right, but she didn't want to agree with Yang Ming's point of view. Wasn't that equivalent to admitting that she was wrong? Thus he snorted coldly. By the way, what's the phone number of the kidnappers? Yang Ming asked. It's a mess of numbers. It seems to be from a network software. Although Yang Li looked down on her cousin, judging from the current situation, her cousin was the one with the best ideas. Therefore, Yang Li didn't dare to be too difficult. After all, it was related to her father's safety. She couldn't be impulsive. Internet phone call. Yang Ming sighed and said, then it's basically impossible to trace it. Why? Can't you find the IP address of the machine that made the call through the network company? Yang Li asked. Yang Ming was a little surprised. Seems that my cousin knows quite a lot. However, college students nowadays more or less know some computer knowledge. However, Yang Ming was a computer science major. He was usually more interested in computers, so he knew more. So he explained, now many internet phones can be applied for free trial, and they support the setting of a proxy server. If the kidnappers are masters in this field, through a proxy server or even a double proxy, it's impossible to verify. Then what should we do now? Yang Li was a little overwhelmed. Wait. Yang Ming finished and closed his eyes. Relatively speaking, Yang Ming was just an outsider. If it was his own family matter, then he would definitely choose to contact Uncle Chen first and let him investigate this matter secretly. But now it was his cousin Yang Li's family matter. The kidnappers had already stated that they were not allowed to call the police. If he made the decision to contact Uncle Chen, then to put it bluntly, if his uncle couldn't escape this time, Yang Li would definitely put all the blame on his head. So to be safe, Yang Ming decided to look at the kidnapper's request and then plan for the future. Sure enough, after half an hour, the ear-piercing phone rang again. What should we do? Yang Li looked at the caller ID on the phone in horror. It's them. Put it on speaker. Yang Ming instructed. Then what should I say? Yang Li reached out her trembling hand and wanted to press the speaker button, but she stopped. Just say what you should say. If he has any request, he will naturally mention it. Yang Ming said in a hurry, hurry up or else the kidnappers will be suspicious. Yang Li listened to Yang Ming's words and quickly pressed the speaker button. Hello? Humph humph, you didn't call the police, right? A male voice came from the phone. Though. Yongli replied, how is my dad? What do you want to do? You can rest assured. As long as you cooperate, then your father will be very safe. The tone of the male voice didn't have any tone. Sounded like a voice changer. How do you want me to cooperate? Yongli heard that her father was still safe and she was slightly relieved. Prepare 300,000 in cash and wait for my call. Tell me your phone number. The person on the phone still didn't have any emotional fluctuations. What? 300,000? Yongli was shocked. Although her family was very rich, it was still difficult to take out 300,000 at once. Why? Do you think it's too much? Then I'm sorry. The male with the croaky voice laughed. No. My phone number is 13XXXXX3333. Yongli said. You are indeed the princess of a rich family. The number is quite good. I will call you in an hour. Now I will give you an hour to get the money. After the male voice finished, he hung up the phone. What should I do? After hanging up the phone, Yongli looked at everyone blankly. What else can we do? Prepare the money. Yongming shook his head. Or call the police. You choose. But the family doesn't have so much money. Yongli turned to look at her mother. Mom, how much can the family take out? The working capital is basically in the account book of your father's company. The family has a deposit book of 1 million, but it is in your father's name. We can't take it out. The aunt said very worriedly. Second uncle, your family. Yongli suddenly turned to Yang Dahai and asked. But before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by Yongming. If his father lent her the money and his uncle was released, everything would be fine. However, if anything happened, would the money still be returned to his family? For Yongli's character, Yongming had to consider carefully. Don't you have a good relationship with Sun Jie? Her family background should be very good. You can borrow some from her first. Yeah, how could I forget her? She must have a way. Yongli's eyes lit up instantly. She quickly took out the phone and dialed Sun Jie. Hello. Sun Jie, I'm Yongli. Something happened in my family. Someone kidnapped my father. And that's fine. I'll wait for you. After the phone call, Yongli was obviously relieved. Could be seen that this Sun Jie must be a person with a way. In this case, Yongming didn't worry much. It was best if someone else intervened. He didn't have to look at his cousin's supercilious eyes. It was simply a waste of effort. 10 minutes later, he heard the doorbell. It seemed that the performance of Sun Jie's Audi R8 was good, and the speed was very fast. After Sun Jie entered the house, she saw that Yongming was also here. She was obviously a little surprised, but when she thought of the relationship between Yongming and Yongli, she was relieved. However, Yongming was a bit embarrassed. After all, last time in the bathroom he did that to her. For his own woman, Yongming certainly had to greet her. Sun Jie didn't speak, but she nodded to Yongming. That strange feeling made Yongming feel a little uncomfortable all of a sudden. Motherfucker, we are husband and wife for one night. Last time you took the aphrodisiac. After you finished using me, you forgot about me? In the end, it was Yongming's macho idea. How could the relationship between the two people be considered ambiguous? How could I turn a blind eye to it? Thinking of this, Yongming deliberately sat next to Sun Jie, and his eyes swept across Sun Jie's collar. However, now that everyone was worried about Yongming's matter, no one noticed Yongming's little action. However, the person involved, Sun Jie, felt Yongming's strange gaze. She glared at Yongming and whispered, I said that the last incident was an accident. I hope you respect yourself. Chapter 234. Seeing Sun Jie's expression, Yongming was suddenly happy. It seemed that this woman didn't forget about him like how she looked on the surface. The more indifferent Sun Jie was to him, the more Yongming felt that he must have occupied a place in this woman's heart. Otherwise, why would she change her enthusiasm from the first time they met and deliberately ignore him? Acquaintances shouldn't have such an attitude, right? Yongming remembered that although Sun Jie wasn't very interested in several of her suitors, such as Gu Jianchao, she still had the proper etiquette. Thinking of this, Yongming smiled slightly and whispered, Who can guarantee that the accident won't happen again? I'm afraid there is no chance. Sun Jie had adjusted her emotions and her face became the initial indifference. But at this moment it was useless to change anything. Yang Ming had already seen the slightly angry and coquettish expression from before. Yang Ming said indifferently, "If there is no chance, you can create it. Right, the film in your MP4 is good. When will you return it to me?" Sun Jia wasn't afraid that the things inside would be seen by Yang Ming. It wasn't that she was reluctant to part with the MP4. It was just that Yang Ming's tone made her a little uncomfortable. For a long time, Sun Jia had been dealing with men from a very advantageous point of view. Those suitors were played in the palm of Sun Jia's hand. Even if there were some unconventional and maverick pursuers from time to time, they deliberately pretended to ignore Sun Jia or tit-for-tat to attract Sun Jia's attention. Unfortunately, Sun Jia simply ignored them directly. The person in front of her now was Yang Ming. Although Sun Jia tried hard to forget the incident, how could this kind of thing be forgotten just like that? Sun Jia's brain wasn't a computer's hard drive. It could be deleted just like that. In any case, it really happened. Sun Jia couldn't treat the only man who had that kind of relationship with her the same as other men. But with the current identity of Yang Ming, it was impossible for Sun Jia to have any further relationship with him. Sun Jia had been hurt once. She had transformed from a girl who was obsessed with love into a rational businesswoman, the heir of the Sun family. Now that she recalled how stupid and ridiculous she was at the beginning, she had almost turned against her family because of that self-righteous love that she thought would last until the end of time. The kind of old-fashioned plot that would only appear in TV series actually happened to Sun Jia. Sun Jia, who had just entered university, was just out of the prison of her family's supervision. Like many girls who just entered university, she was full of longing and hope for the love in university. Soon after, a man whom Sun Jia thought was her destined Prince Charming appeared. This man was Feng Chong. Feng Chong's appearance was not very outstanding, but in school his grades were outstanding. He also had excellent leadership skills. When he was just a freshman, he was elected as the vice president of the Department of Students with his own ability. Therefore, Feng Chong easily became the Prince Charming in the hearts of many girls. Sun Jia was also one of them. However, with Sun Jia's appearance, talents, and outstanding family background, she quickly stood out among many pursuers. Soon she was paired with Feng Chong. Although Feng Chong wanted to further his relationship with Sun Jia's family was very strict. She never crossed the line with Feng Chong. However, this matter was still known by Sun Jia's family. Sun Jia's father, Sun Hongjun, was very angry after hearing about it. He called Sun Jia back home and reprimanded her. He ordered her to break up with Feng Chong immediately. Sun Hongjun was also a well-known figure in Donghai City. Sun Jia was his only daughter, so he valued his daughter's marriage very much. He wanted to find a suitable husband for Sun Jia. At that time, Sun Jia might have been blinded by love. After a few words, she had a falling out with her family. She resolutely chose to run away from home and moved to the school's dormitory. Perhaps it was also because of the pressure from her family, so Sun Jia made a very important decision. She decided to give her body to Feng Chong. On the one hand, it showed that she had no hesitation. On the other hand, it also created an impression in her family that what was done could not be undone. However, Sun Jia also thought that her move might completely fall out with her family. She might have to spend the rest of her life with Feng Chong. Therefore, Sun Jia decided to test Feng Chong before completely giving herself to him so that she could feel at ease. Although Feng Chong had previously vowed that he liked Sun Jia as a person, not her family background, Sun Jia still retained her wisdom. After all, now was the time to cut off all means of retreat. He had to be cautious. Therefore, Sun Jia asked Feng Chong out and told him that she agreed to get a room with him. Feng Chong was naturally very happy. He rushed to a luxury hotel with Sun Jia. In the room, Feng Chong was eager to take a shower, but Sun Jia stopped him and said that she had something to tell him. At that time, Feng Chong didn't care. He thought that Sun Jia would ask him if he could love her for a lifetime. However, he didn't expect that Sun Jia wasn't talking to him about this. Feng Chong, something happened in my family. Sun Jia hesitated and said. She didn't say that she had fallen out with her family. Something happened. What happened? You can rest assured that I will stand by your side. Feng Chong thought that Sun Jia was referring to the death of her grandparents, so he agreed. Sun Jia was still a little moved after listening, so she continued, my father's company went bankrupt. Now my family owes tens of millions of debts. What did you say? Your father's company went bankrupt? Feng Chong was stunned. They still owe tens of millions of debts? Are you kidding? No, Feng Chong. Sun Jie shook her head and said, I didn't lie to you. The creditors have come to the door. I really don't know what to do. I may be burdened by debt for the rest of my life. You didn't lie to me. Feng Chong's voice was a little flustered. After listening to Feng Chong's words and his tone, Sun Jie suddenly had a very bad feeling, but she still shook her head. Damn. Feng Chong suddenly stood up from the bed and jumped out. He kept a distance of more than 3 meters from Sun Jie. Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drag me down after going to bed with me? Do you want me to pay off your debts for the rest of my life? There should be no need to pay off the debt. Sun Jie was a little scared and explained slightly, the bankruptcy of the limited company shouldn't be pursued by the family. Come on, Sun Jie. I think we should break up quickly. Feng Chong waved his hand impatiently. Feng Chong, what do you mean by this? Didn't you say it in the beginning? You don't like my family background. Sun Jie was a little surprised. Ah, that's just a saying. Who doesn't care about money? Feng Chong laughed and said, it is undeniable that Sun Jie, you are really the best among women. Your appearance and figure are the best among the women I have ever seen. Moreover, what interests me most is that you have a good family background. So I chose to be with you. Otherwise, why do you think I am with you? There are so many women chasing after me. What's the use of being beautiful? What I want is a good family background. A family background that can make me struggle less for 20 years after graduation. Sun Jie seemed like she didn't know Feng Chong. She looked at the familiar but strange man in front of her very angrily. Fortunately, you are a virgin and didn't let anything happen between you and me. Otherwise, if you rely on me in the future, it will be troublesome. Feng Chong said very proudly, well, Sun Jie, with your appearance, you should find a rich young master to pay off your debts for you. Anyway, I didn't fuck you. He saw that you are a virgin, so maybe he will treat you well. Feng Chong. Sun Jie was so angry that she trembled. She never dreamed that Feng Chong was such a man. She really misjudged him before. Fortunately, the opposition from her family made her recognize Feng Chong's true colors. Hey Sun Jie, don't pretend. I didn't do anything to you. Is it necessary? To tell you the truth, my family is poor. I just want to find a rich wife to have a successful career. Bye-bye. Feng Chong waved his hand to Sun Jie and quickly walked out of the door of the room. As he walked, he muttered, damn, I wasted 300 yuan on the room fee. Sun Jie almost fainted after hearing it. Are these still words spoken by a human? However, Sun Jie came from a big family. Her character wasn't strong. After crying in the hotel for a night, she decided to start a new life and no longer trust any man. She cried not because of Feng Chong but because she was too stupid. She actually believed Feng Chong's sweet words and believed such a heartless person. Chapter 235. Feng Chong regretted it as soon as he returned to school. He had been with Sun Jie for so long, but he hadn't even held her hand. This seemed to be a failure. Just now he was in a hurry. He was shocked by Sun Jie's words. He was so scared that he ran away. Now that he thought about it, since Sun Jie's family had lost power, why should he be afraid of her? Under the original situation, if something happened between him and Sun Jie, with the power of the Sun family, they would definitely not let him go. Now that he was bankrupt, what was there to be afraid of? I really should have done it with Sun Jie first. Feng Chong patted his head with some regret. Wait a minute. When I saw Sun Jie today, she was still wearing branded clothes. The LV handbag in her hand seemed to be newly bought in the past 2 days. My family went bankrupt so quickly? It's unbelievable. Thinking of this, Feng Chong quickly called one of his high school classmates. This high school classmate was admitted to a university in Donghai City. He should know the situation in Donghai. So Feng Chong called the classmate, hello old San? I'm Feng Chong. It turned out to be old San. Why are you looking for me? Said the person on the other end of the phone. Damn, I have said it 100 times. Don't call me old San. Feng Chong said with dissatisfaction. Right, is there a Sun's Consortium in Donghai City? Sun's Consortium? I don't know. Is it big? Old San asked, puzzled. Don't know. Right. Feng Chong suddenly remembered that the Sun's Consortium was just a parent company. It didn't have any subsidiary business. It was only responsible for the vertical management of the subsidiaries, so it was normal that many people didn't know. So he quickly asked, "Do you know about the World Department Store? I heard that it closed down." "Closed down? Damn." Old San said with a smile. "Who did you hear it from? How can the World Department Store go bankrupt when it's so big? It was broadcasted on TV 2 days ago. The World Department Store bought the bankrupt Yunkai commercial building next to it. The city leaders even went to cut the ribbon. Did you hear it?" Feng Chong's head suddenly buzzed. He almost threw the phone in his hand. Feng Chong just said, "I got it." Then he hung up the phone. This made Old San somewhat inexplicable. He held the phone and said to himself, "This Old San, what is he doing? He called me so late at night to ask this? You're crazy." After calming down, Feng Chong also understood the crux of the matter. Perhaps this was Sun Jixian's test for him. Damn, why am I such an idiot? He couldn't even figure out such a simple thing. Feng Chong blamed himself for being too eager for quick success. Feng Chong, who figured out the key, immediately prepared to make amends. He quickly called Sun Jie, but Sun Jie had already turned off her phone. When he rushed to the hotel, the waiter told him that Sun Jie had already checked out and left. Feng Chong was so regretful that even his intestines were green with regret. But no matter how anxious he was, he had to wait until he saw Sun Jie. After returning home, Sun Jie's mind calmed down a lot. Recalling the experience with Feng Chong, Sun Jie suddenly felt that Feng Chong was a stranger. In fact, she didn't like him very much. Maybe it was because she went with the flow that made her notice Feng Chong. Now, Sun Jie found that she didn't have the slightest sense of loss. Instead, she was somewhat fortunate that she saw Feng Chong's ugly face as soon as possible. Afterward, no matter how Feng Chong explained, Sun Jie just sneered. Sun Jie looked at the clown in front of her and felt a sense of disgust for no reason. She even felt that all men were hypocritical animals. Of course, Sun Jie, who inherited part of the Sun family's business, didn't let Feng Chong have an easy time at all. After this guy graduated, he was squeezed out by major companies in Songjiang and Donghai. He had to go far away. Sun Jie, who had lost interest in men since then, met a woman who had a similar experience as herself by chance. The similar experience would always cause a special resonance, so the two naturally became intimate. Sun Jie didn't expect that she would actually have a relationship with a man who was younger than her. Sun Jie didn't have any special feelings for Yang Ming. At present, she just felt that Yang Ming was very special, at least better than other men. "Sun Jie, what are you thinking? What are you and Yang Ming whispering about?" Yang Li naturally saw the little movements of Sun Jie and Yang Ming. Being asked by Yang Li, Mother Yang also paid attention to the relationship between Yang Ming and Sun Jie, so she asked curiously, "Big Ming, do you know each other?" "Yeah, last time I came to my cousin's house to ask about the problems that college students should pay attention to. My cousin took me out to eat. At that time I met Sister Sun Jie. My cousin even asked me to pretend to be Sister Sun Jie's boyfriend." When Yang Ming said this, not only was Sun Jie stunned, but Yang Li was also stunned. Yang Ming's parents and aunt were even more stunned. Yang Li didn't expect that Yang Ming could actually talk about this matter, and he even said it in such a dignified manner. Yang Li was so angry. Yang Ming's words obviously made the adults think that she was leading Yang Ming astray. Sun Jie's face was hot when she heard it. "I asked you to pretend, but you actually did it." However, Sun Jie's reaction ability was still relatively fast. She smiled and said, "Hee, it would be a waste not to use Yang Li's younger brother. Next time we might have to trouble him. Uncle and Auntie don't blame us, right?" It's okay. Mother Yang saw that Sun Jie was such a beautiful girl with status. Naturally, she didn't mind Yang Ming to make a cameo appearance. "How can it be that simple? I have wasted a lot of energy," Yang Ming said faintly. Sun Jie suddenly blushed after hearing it. She glared at Yang Ming with some anger. However, Yang Li didn't understand it. She just said impatiently, "Will you be tired to death after walking a few steps?" Yang Ming smiled and didn't say anything. He glanced at Sun Jie and found that she was also staring at him. Sometimes, the tacit understanding between two people was a very subtle feeling. "Right, Sun Jie, can you lend me 300,000 yuan? Yang Li suddenly remembered that there was still business. She couldn't help but look gloomy. "Yang Li, now it's not as simple as preparing 300,000 yuan. Of course, it's not a problem for me to lend you the money, but the problem is, after you give the money, can Uncle Yang come back safely?" Sun Jie asked very calmly. To be honest, Yang Li was most worried about this, but what could she do? The kidnappers didn't allow you to call the police, right? Sun Jie glanced at Yongli and asked. Yeah, what should I do, Sister Sun Jie? Yongli asked with a crying voice. Yongming shook his head. Sun Jie and Yongli were both rich girls. The gap was so big. Sun Jie's wisdom in the face of danger was the opposite of Yongli's panic. Sun Jie's words were always on point, but Yongli just blindly asked for other people's opinions. He had no idea at all. In this case, since the kidnappers didn't allow us to call the police, then we can use our own people. Sun Jie hesitated and said, Yongli, I will try my best to help you, but if it doesn't work, you can't blame me. Hey Sister Sun Jie, I will listen to you. Yongli nodded. Yongming was so angry. If you listened to Sun Jie so much, why did you ask me to come? But this was also good. Yongming was happy to have some free time. Sun Jie took out the phone and dialed a number. Then she said to the other side, Uncle Zhao, this is Sun Jie. Help me prepare 300,000 yuan in cash, and then find a few people with good skills to wait for my orders. Hanging up the phone, Yongli had some doubts. Why don't you let those people come to my house directly? At this time it is better to be hidden. Since the kidnappers didn't let you call the police, it is likely that they will send people to monitor your house. If they know that you have called for help, I am afraid it will be bad for things. Sun Jie analyzed. After Yongming listened, he couldn't help but look at Sun Jie with appreciation. It seems that she is more considerate than me. However, since he was inspired by Sun Jie, Yongming immediately used his special ability and began to scan some corners near the villa with X-ray vision. Sure enough, behind a garbage transfer station in the northwest corner, there was a suspicious man holding a telescope and wearing a cap. Yongming carefully checked his surroundings again and confirmed that there was only one person monitoring him. Then he was slightly relieved. From the looks of it, the kidnappers weren't very powerful. The reason for this inference was that this guy was wearing earplugs on his head. At first, Yongming thought that it was an intercom device for them to communicate with each other. However, when Yongming glanced at the end of the earphone cable, he couldn't help but be happy. It was actually an MP3, and the screen of the MP3 showed that it was playing an old song by Teresa Ting. Obviously, the person in charge of monitoring was too amateur. In this case, he still dared to listen to the song? Wasn't he afraid of being killed? Yongming believed that even if he called the police, he wouldn't find anything. Because before he found the police, he would have been controlled. Chapter 236. Yongming hesitated and decided to tell Sun Jie about this matter. If it was handled properly, it was likely to become a breakthrough in the kidnapping. They could follow the clues to find the other kidnappers. Sun Jie, you come with me. Yongming stood up and said to Sun Jie. The reason why he said it alone was that he was afraid that Yongli wouldn't be able to remain calm after learning about it. When the kidnappers called, she would reveal a flaw. Sun Jie was stunned. She didn't understand the meaning of Yongming. Thinking of the relationship between the two, Sun Jie unconsciously remembered the incident that day. Her good impression of Yongming was shattered in an instant. She felt that Yongming had a poor sense of the overall situation. What is the situation now? Why do you always think about personal relationships? However, thinking that Yongming could say that he pretended to be her boyfriend in front of everyone, Sun Jie was afraid that if she didn't go with him, he would say something in public. So she frowned and stood up with Yongming reluctantly. Sun Jie didn't know where Yongming was going, so she had to follow behind Yongming. But Sun Jie saw that Yongming reached out and pushed open the door of the bathroom. Sun Jie's heart suddenly trembled. What is this guy going to do? Is he going to do it with me again? What are you looking at? Come in quickly. As he said this, he reached out and pulled Sun Jie's hand into the bathroom. Ah! Sun Jie was shocked. She didn't expect Yongming to dare to make a move on her. She couldn't help but say with some disgust, "What time is it now? You still have the mind to think about these things?" Yongming was also stunned. He looked at Sun Jie inexplicably and said, "What did you say?" "What did I say? Didn't you want to do it with me?" Sun Jie's face was red as she frowned. "I'm going to faint." Yongming broke into a sweat. He suddenly remembered the flirtatious scene in the bathroom last time. It seemed that Sun Jie had completely misunderstood, so he said with a smile, "What kind of unhealthy things are you thinking about writing? I asked you to come in because I have important things to tell you." Sun Jie was stunned, and then her expression quickly returned to calmness. She asked, "What is it? You don't have to come to the bathroom, right? You're so smart. You can't think of it, right?" Yang Ming deliberately asked. Sun Jie glanced at Yang Ming. Then she looked at the layout of the bathroom and said, "You mean someone is monitoring the movement in the villa?" "There is no. To." "How do you know?" asked Sun Jie. "Behind the garbage transfer station in the northwest corner, there is a man wearing a cap. He is the accomplice of the kidnappers. I have already observed. He is the only ambush nearby," Yang Ming said faintly. "How do you know so much?" Sun Jie looked at Yang Ming with some suspicion. "You want to say that I am not an accomplice of the kidnapper, right?" Yang Ming naturally heard the implication in Sun Jie's words and said with a smile, "I didn't say that. You said it yourself." Sun Jie looked directly at Yang Ming. "If you say so, then so be it. I am very sad. People say that a night together as husband and wife means 100 days together. And I think you don't even have the basic trust." Yang Ming shook his head and pretended to be sad. "It's not that I don't believe you, but things are too strange. How did you find out?" Although Sun Jie said it very casually, her body was secretly alert. Yang Ming was also considered to be a veteran. How could he not see Sun Jie's little move? He smiled slightly and said, "Why? Do you still want to hit me?" "Yeah, I have learned the grappling technique. You may not be my opponent." Sun Jie didn't expect Yang Ming to actually discover her intentions, but her reaction was fast. She deliberately said it in a joking tone. "You can try." Yang Ming wasn't looking down on her, but now there weren't many people in the world who could be faster than Yang Ming. "I don't have time to chat with you. Let's talk business." Sun Jie rolled her eyes at Yang Ming and let down her guard. She knew that since Yang Ming saw her intentions, it was either that he was fearless or that he really had nothing to do with this matter. When I took a taxi near the villa, I deliberately observed the nearby area. The only place that could hide people was there. So I paid attention and found a man with a cap and binoculars. He was secretly looking at the direction of the villa." "Are you sure it's just him?" Sun Jie looked at Yang Ming with some surprise. The calmness and wisdom that Yang Ming showed were rare for a college student. Sun Jie couldn't help but be a little curious about Yang Ming. "I'm sure." Yang Ming nodded. "Then what do you mean?" Sun Jie seemed to have guessed Yang Ming's intentions. "That's right. Look for your people to control him and then follow the vine to find the melon," Yang Ming said. "Are you sure?" Sun Jie glanced at Yang Ming. "If your people aren't idiots." Yang Ming replied in a bad mood. "If one person couldn't be caught, then it was better to commit suicide." Sun Jie nodded and began to make calls to arrange everything. After she finished, Yang Ming said, "Don't tell Yang Li about this first. She's too emotional. I'm afraid that she will reveal a flaw when the kidnapper calls." Sun Jie nodded and sighed. "I didn't expect you to consider it more thoroughly than me." "What do you mean?" "As your man, of course I have to consider some things that you didn't expect." Yang Ming said shamelessly. "You can go to hell." Sun Jie ignored Yang Ming. She pushed open the door of the bathroom and walked out. Yang Ming didn't want to do anything with Sun Jie in this bathroom. He just wanted to take advantage of her verbally. The kidnapper probably didn't expect Yang Li to borrow such a large sum of money immediately. He didn't call for a long time. Yang Li didn't know why Yang Ming and Sun Jie were sneaking into the bathroom. When she saw them come out, she first glanced at Yang Ming and then asked Sun Jie with some doubts. "You and him, you guys? Isn't it because of your last decision that brought some trouble to Yang Ming?" Guo Chao looked for him after that. Sun Jie's reaction was quite fast. She casually found a reason. "Oh, so it's like this." Yang Li immediately lost interest after hearing it. After all, at this time there was nothing more important than kidnapping. Yang Ming found it funny in his heart. This Guo Chao did look for him, but he asked if Bao Sanli had the intention to deal with him. He probably went back and found out who Bao Sanli was, so he was afraid. However, Yang Li didn't care about Yang Ming's parents. She was very concerned and asked, "Yang Ming, who is Guo Chao? What happened?" "Nothing. He is just a pursuer of Sun Jie," Yang Ming said lightly. "Then he didn't embarrass you, right?" Mother Yang was a little worried. "Oh, Mom. Don't think about it so complicated. I just advised him to give up his pursuit of Sun Jie and he agreed." Yang Ming smiled. "Well, that's good. Just don't have any conflicts with others," Mother Yang said. However, Yang Ming's words surprised Sun Jie. Could it be that he had hit the nail on the head by a fluke? Guo Jianchao really looked for Yang Ming? Recalling that recently, Guo Jianchao seemed to have given up his pursuit of her. Could it be that he listened to Yang Ming's advice? It was just that Sun Jie was a bit puzzled. Guo Jianchao was so indomitable. She had rejected him n times, but there was still no effect. How could he listen to Yang Ming's words? Could it be that this guy? Sun Jie suddenly remembered a stack of photos and CDs about Yang Ming that she had seen before. Could it be that he used violence to coerce Guo Jianchao? Thinking of this, Sun Jie couldn't help but laugh. This Yang Ming is really out of my expectations. In fact, Sun Jie really guessed it. Yang Ming did exert violence on Guo Jianchao, and this violence wasn't an ordinary evil. Seeing Sun Jie looking at him in confusion, Yang Ming winked at her, which meant that he had solved a big problem for her. Sun Jie pretended that she didn't understand. She blinked her eyes in confusion, which made Yang Ming very depressed. Just as he was about to do something, he looked up and saw 3 men in black slowly approaching the kidnapper who was monitoring the villa. These 3 people were obviously trained formally. Although their skills weren't as neat as Yang Ming's, it was still considered to be one move to defeat the enemy. There was no doubt that the peaked cap guy was controlled. After being controlled, one of the men in black searched him and took out a cowhide rope to tie the peaked cap guy's hands and feet. Then they quickly carried him into a blue Buick commercial car. At this time, Sun Jie's phone vibrated and received a text message.